And time runs out on the Nashville Predators as the Vancouver Canucks celebrate with their goaltender Artur Shilovs, who in many ways was the star of this series coming on, and the Predators' season has come to a conclusion. 1-0 the final.
No, we've said for about 2 weeks now, it's not over till it's over. But it is now over. The Predators' season comes to a close. They fall to the Vancouver Canucks 1-0 in Game 6. And I think that as we'll spend, the rest of the offseason breaking it down, Barry Trotz has a massive offseason ahead of him, a ton of big decisions to make. But I think that if we're going to use a couple of words to summarize what this series was, what the Predators were in the playoffs, it very well could be missed opportunities. We'll get into all of that today, and today is your day, a Predators Reaction Monday. We are to your phones early, and we are to your phones all show long. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll get your calls, your texts, your reaction to the game, to the playoff series, recapping the season as a whole, looking ahead, questions that you have, concerns that you might have about this team. We'll get into all of that. But today, we're out here at Habitat for Humanity of Sumner County, Tennessee. We're building playhouses today for families in Sumner County. So Habitat has partnered with sponsors to provide children with a safe place to play and imagine what a safe home means to them. The Predators are out here, the Titans are out here, and we're happy to be out here as well. Willy D-Mase, happy Monday. How we doing?
Hey, happy Monday. I'm doing pretty good. I'm sure the Nashville Predators, amongst their giving back to the community, there's still a bit of a, that sour taste in your mouth, and this allows you, what they're doing today allows you to sort of get away from it for a minute. But I know once this is over with, you're back into that mode of, man, what didn't we do, or what did we do that contributed to us being, defeated, not just, in 6 games, but ultimately in our own building. Mm-hmm. The game was a hard-fought game, but ultimately it was a war of attrition. That's the way it seemed. And it came down to, a goal with, 4 or 5 minutes left?
Less than that.
Less than 2. You're right. And you just saw, as you're watching the game, you just see this back and forth, and the first person that scores is over. Because that's the type of game it was. It was a physical game.
That way all the
way.
No
one wanted to give an inch. And you
how
knew
the series felt.
Exactly. You knew that, once whoever scored that first goal, it was going to be an uphill battle for the team then to try to come back and tie the game. So, but a bunch of missed opportunities. You can't fault yourself. You can't fault anyone but yourself. Mm-hmm. They were all missed opportunities. When you only score, twice on a power play, and you've had over 20 opportunities, and you only score twice, I believe, that's not good. It's not good at all. That's like, a team setting you up in the red zone 20 times, and you only come out with 2 scores. That's not good. Not good at all.
Especially for a team that, after the All-Star break, had one of the best power play units in the league.
Yeah.
Well, they had one of the best power plays that they had for a season in their history. For the regular season. And it was one of the highest scoring teams. I think it tied for the most goals that they've ever scored in a season. So it's interesting with that backdrop that it was such a hard-fought defensive series.
Mm-hmm.
The overall goals, 13-12. So first off, let's give a big tip of the hat to everybody that's out here today doing some really good things for the community. There's so many people out here.
Yeah.
Right? And they're all representing. I see a lot of gold Predator shirts on. I see some other organizations that have got their tees. This is really cool what they're doing. We're glad to be here today. So we're going to have this discussion, I think, from a couple different angles. The disappointment of losing the series is right in the rear view, right? Because you're looking back and saying, what if? There were so many close moments. The series was so close. 1 or 2 plays over the course of 6 games. Forget about 1 or 2 plays per game. You could go that far. But every game was winnable for the Predators. And I was in a dark place after the game was over. I just went home after the game. I was so down. Yeah. It was so tough. If we could have wound back Pete's call there, I thought the Predators were going to score in the final 30 seconds. it was they had beaten the goalie 2 or 3 times, and it was just a desperation. Tyler Myers joked that one puck hit him in the cup. It was going in. But
a whole lot of cup talk.
There was a lot of cup talk in the series.
Yeah.
But that's what kind of series it was. It was in the trenches, right? It was nasty. It was physical. I thought they had it, and we're going to send it to overtime. But you look back on the series, and they probably should – I mean, not probably. They should have won Game 4.
Yeah.
It should have gone to 7 games. And then who knows what would have happened in the 7th game last night on the road. But so that hurt is big. So that's one feeling is the what if. You go back, could they have won the series? Absolutely. They had a chance. But on the other hand, just going back, the further you get removed, the other discussion is how do you evaluate this season? I think it's a really good season. I think I might have signed up for this. I think I would have signed up for this with the heartache included before the season started. If you told me they're going to lose to the Canucks in 6 games, the way it went down, I'd have said, okay, back in the playoffs, I'll take that. I'll take that. And then there's the discussion of where to go from here, how to get to the point where you don't lose on the margins.
Yeah.
You win on the margins, that your overall talent is better, that you have more margin for error, right? And you're not a team that has to overachieve to win in the playoffs. Because they closed that gap. Like, I didn't feel like I was watching the Islanders against the Carolina Hurricanes, right? Or I didn't feel like I was watching the Capitals against the Rangers, where those were mismatches, right?
Yeah,
I felt like 2 years ago that was the Predators, right? They were the mismatch, especially without UC Saros. It was an extreme mismatch.
You were hoping that you could hold on to win at least 1 game.
Right,
you could
right.
push
You're
it to
thinking
5 games.
maybe we'll have a moment, right? There was that.
exactly.
And even the year before against the Hurricanes when they played in the playoffs, it was still a decided underdog. They had to have UC Saros stand on his head to keep him in every game. So I feel like they closed that gap, and they did it in a hurry, surprisingly well. But I think there's still some really interesting decisions that Barry Trotz has. Because I think when you hear him talk to the media, he's going to say, we've still got to get another level or 2 before we really have a chance to do some damage in the playoffs. But I think they did a great job this year of laying the foundation of some of the things that they're trying to do.
100%. And I'll go back to this past offseason when Barry Trotz said, be patient with us. I don't think that patience expired after just 1 year. The patience is most likely going to have to continue because of all of those big decisions and really pivotal decisions that Barry Trotz is going to have to make this offseason. What do you do with UC Saros? Do you truly commit to the youth movement that I think they probably wanted to commit to a little bit more this past season, but when you are rolling as much with some of the veterans and the Barry Trotz, serial winners, then why go off of that? Then, capitalize on some of the momentum that you've got. I do want to get into all of that because those are massive questions today. But before we get into that, just kind of looking back a little bit more, I think the frustrating thing about it, because you bring up the Islanders-Hurricane series. Like, if you're an Islanders fan, you're probably watching that just, so defeated, but almost glad that the punishment is over.
The victory for them was getting in there, right?
They made it, and it was a rough 5 games.
And the problem for them is, and same thing with the Capitals, they got in there. But they're aging teams that don't have a lot of youth on the horizon, or are they moving in the right direction?
It feels like it's a swan song.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And they have some very difficult challenges ahead because their moves aren't real good. Nobody wants a lot of their aging players for the prices that they're at. That's what's unique about the Predators, and that's where Barry Trotz and really David Poile deserve a lot of credit because David Poile handed Barry Trotz options because he didn't gut the farm system, right? It's the opposite. The farm system is loaded, right? They have a ton of draft picks going forward. So these are good things. They have cap space, which the Islanders don't have any cap space. Capitals don't have cap space, right? So I think there's a different feeling you have after the playoffs. But that doesn't make it feel any better today, right? Everybody's still hurting. I was moping around all Saturday. It was usually Saturdays. I was like, I should be going to Vancouver. It should be 3-3, and there's what ifs, everything. It was a tough day. It was a tough day. But that aside, I still look ahead and I see, okay, Barry Trotz has built a really good foundation here, and Andrew Brunette, the way they play, I think really has you optimistic about what he could build if they could take a next step for the for what the foundation is.
And I think it's fair to feel two completely different ways. The just sadness and frustration of how the series went, thinking about what could have been. Had you just capitalized on a couple of more opportunities, had you just find the net a couple of times on the power play, had you just been able to hold on to a 3-1 lead in the third period in Game 4, all of these little things, teeny tiny little dominoes that fell that made massive implications on this series, you can't help but think about if just a couple of more things went the Predators' way, how different could things be? Could you be going to Game 7 in Vancouver, or could we be talking about a Predators-Oilers matchup today? Like, it was so within reach and within grasp that I think that's where the frustration really comes from, because if you're an Islanders fan, really the conversations that we were having in 2022, it was just, well, you weren't good enough. They were a better team than you were, and you barely squeaked into the playoffs anyway, so just move on from it. Now here it's like, oh, dang, it was so close.
Yep.
So it's the frustration, but also simultaneously with optimism for what comes next, and optimism for really what this season was as a whole. Because I said during the playoff series, I said, I don't want to hear about how the Predators weren't supposed to be here, because I don't want to hear that after they just blew away a lead in Game 4. But it is the truth that nobody expected the Predators to be here. I don't think Barry Trotz necessarily expected them to be here.
It depends on when you ask that question, right?
Yeah,
if you ask the question
in the
before
middle of
the
an
season,
18-game point streak,
right?
It's a different story.
Yeah, I think that's true, because I think you could argue before the season that you could have said Vancouver wasn't supposed to be there, not as the number one seed out of the Pacific.
Yeah.
Right. No, I don't think anybody thought they were doing that. That's why these two coaches are going to finish 1 and 2 in the Jack Adams, right? Because they both overachieved. But by the time that series started, I think you saw that the Predators belonged, right? They were right with the Canucks in every game. But
and they didn't just sneak in; like, they were in the playoffs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think as you watch I don't know how you guys felt, but I think what Elliott said before the series, that the depth, there was just a little bit more eliteness at the top of the lineup, a little more depth on Vancouver's side going into the series, and he thought that was what would give them the nod in 7 games. Right? He said Canucks in 7.
Yeah.
And I think that was largely true. Right? The playmakers for Vancouver, or they got a couple more than the Predators do right now, and partially because they traded for one. They put a lot of all in to rent Elias Lindholm. We'll see what they do with him. We'll see if they are able to keep him. But Lindholm scored the game winner in Game 4 in overtime. Right? He helped. Right? He was a guy that was very valuable to them. Take him away, and maybe it's a little more even. So they're going for it. Probably gave them an edge. Nashville didn't go for it, right? They didn't spend to the cap. They made modest moves at the trade deadline because a couple of weeks before the trade deadline, Barry Trotz was saying, we were probably sellers. We were going to sell. But they went on that run. And despite that, it's still a series where you go, boy, what if this? Like Game 4, I woke up this morning with the drip and saying, what were the odds that the 3 plays in the last 3 minutes would have all gone the way they did? Like, if you played that 3 minutes over, the 2 goals by Besser and Sissons from the circle, not an easy shot, but with that range, missing the empty net, hitting the post. What is the probability? I need a math whiz to tell me what the actual answer is, but the probability of all 3 of those things falling into line is a long shot.
Where's
right?
Adam Vingan?
It's like the trifecta. It was like you had to have the trifecta, and they got the trifecta. So that's one that will probably sting more than anything for the summer, right? Just because I just would have loved to have seen these teams play a Game 7. Like last night, it was the last 2 days. The 2 Game 7s were really something to watch. The 2-1 could have gone either way kind of game, right?
Poor Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, goodness gracious. I mean,
the Maple Leafs fans.
Yeah. But I mean, they had their opportunities. That this is going to be, for me, I do believe this is sort of a franchise defining series from this standpoint, because you have this team that you're assembling, and you don't know at the beginning if this team is capable, because you know the pluses for the teams and you know the minuses. You know their weakness and you know their strength. So you come in there and you thinking, man, okay, if everything goes right, no one gets hurt, yeah, we have a shot to make the playoffs. But for the most part, listen, this is a season where we're already telling the fans, listen, this is progress. This is the thing that's going to be done in increments. It's not going to be something we're going to jump in and make the playoffs and win the Stanley Cup tomorrow. These are things that's going to be done in increments. But second half of the season, they just picked it up. And they were able to put themselves in a position where they made the playoffs. But then making the playoffs wasn't good enough for them, and it shouldn't have been. And they fought a hard-fought series. Now, where do they go from here? Either you can take the team that you have and add on to it, or you take the team that you have and you say, okay, we got to subtract some people and then move forward. Which one do you do?
That's a great.
Do you continue to build on this team? Because they're in a good spot right now. They're in a good spot, and I know the question is going to be the biggest question, and that's UC Sorrows.
Yeah,
sure.
This series, and I think what they do with UC Sorrows will define where this team goes from here on out. Because as a GM, you got to calculate this right. Because if you don't calculate this right, you're going to set your team back. So you got to be real cautious. I know people are looking at UC, and I don't want to. I tried not to go this way toward UC, but I have to. People are going to look at this, and they're going to say, "Look at the way he played in the playoffs. We need somebody else." Okay, if the GM does think that way, this is a defining moment. Because if you go away from this guy too soon and you do not replace him with someone that is at his level or better, you're going to set your franchise back. No matter how much how much talent you have in Milwaukee, you're still going to set this team back. So this decision, along with this playoff series, is going to be defining for this team moving forward.
Yeah, the Sorrows question is a center question, and there's no doubt. I'm looking forward to all of the angles that we take as they try to process this. And they could just, I don't want to say not do anything, but they could choose to ride it out into the season next year and let him enter the last year of his contract where he is under contract for $5 million, which is a great bargain, and see what happens as the season unfolds, right? They could choose that. That's one of many options they have. But the secondary part of the roster as a whole, to me, is do you double down and add more free agent talent and just say, I'll go get the one more scorer that this team could have really used, right? What would one more guy? What would Elias Lindholm or somebody like him have done in a series like this? If they could have had one more guy, not necessarily in place of a Tommy Novak, but a lot was on Tommy Novak, right, as being that secondary scorer, and he had no points in the series, right? If he just makes one play and scores a goal or two great plays, like some would say, well, I need more from Philip Forsberg, but Forsberg had 6 points. He had a hand in 6 out of the 11 non-empty net goals that they scored, right? So he, in a series like that, I think he did fine. You could argue they just needed somebody else to make a big player too. If that's a big-name free agent they could bring in, to me that would be sort of doubling down on – then all of a sudden you become more of a veteran team and the expectations go higher. Or is the solution to now that the prospects in Milwaukee will be a year older, can you get that secondary, real skill from there? Is that your source? And there's a little risk in that because you're like, okay, what if you don't get it? Right, then they're like, well, now what do we do?
And then that begs the questions, well, you do have a wealth of young talent. Maybe they're not refined, and maybe they're not 100% ready to deliver at this level. So you would have to understand that if that is the direction that the Predators team decides to go in, is really pushing toward the youth movement, you're probably going to take a couple steps back.
Yep,
but are you taking a couple steps back to take leaps and bounds forward in the next 3 to 5 years? Or, like you said, do you double down? Do you go after a Stamkos? Do you go after a Mitch Marner? And do you tell a lot of these guys in Milwaukee, your time's coming, your time's just not yet? And then you push all the chips into the middle. I think the main question that Barry Trotz has to ask himself, yes, you want to win a cup, obviously. Of course, that's always going to be the question. Right now, it's how do I get past the first. But baby steps. You got to get past the first round of the playoffs first. And really what the big difference was, because I think there were very few differences between this Predators and Canucks team. The difference was the Canucks were deeper. The Canucks were faster. The Canucks were a little bit more physical. That ultimately ended up being the teeny tiny difference that Vancouver was able to take advantage of this series, and you found yourself falling short.
Yeah, no, what I was going to say is yes, but you mentioned the 3 to 5 years, and listen, it may take them that long.
And I just made up that timeline.
It may take them that long to assemble the right team at the right time to win the cup. But you got to understand, too, Yossi, Forsberg, those guys are not getting younger.
No.
Well, that's the dilemma.
So it's like
and O'Reilly,
Nyquist.
Those
Shen,
guys are.
McDonough.
So you want to take advantage of their skill set right now.
Right.
So what do you? It's like, are we pushing for that 3 or 4 years?
That's the needle you have to thread.
Absolutely.
And Saros isn't getting any younger
No,
either.
he's not either.
Well, you would have to say that if you're going to make another commitment to him, you have to. That's what you have to try to align your team with, right?
And are you going to re-sign the goalie and then put in a bunch of young guys? Well, I don't know how much
somewhere in
sense
there,
that
there's got to
makes.
be a balance, right?
Of course,
It doesn't have to all be one or the other, but you do have to find that balance, like you said. Like Gus Nyquist at 34 had a career year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that at age 35 and 36 that you can expect, well, just put Nyquist in on the first line. He's going to get you 75 points.
Yeah.
You have to be thinking. You got to be hedging your bets. You got to have other things. Ideally, some of these guys that were playing up in the lineup have to move down a little bit as they age, and you replace them with X. And then what's X?
Ideally, Ryan O'Reilly isn't a top-line center moving forward.
No question.
You have a
No
young
question.
guy that you can fill in there
And
that
those
is
guys
your
were awesome.
certified top-line. Of course, that's nothing
O'Reilly
against
and
Ryan
Nyquist were
O'Reilly.
awesome.
They're
I
amazing.
didn't think they would do what they did, and that's why they made the playoffs. But you have to be realistic about what to expect from them in the coming years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, we are right into your phones on this coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We're to your phones all show long. Your reaction to Game 6, your reaction to the playoff series against the Vancouver Canucks, your reaction to the season as a whole, and, of course, the questions that you have about this team moving forward, because Barry Trotz has some big questions to answer this offseason. But as we continue the conversation, I do want to break down kind of the 3 or 4 main reasons why the Predators find themselves now going to Cancun rather than going to Edmonton. And we'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're live out here at Restore for the Habitat for Humanity of Sumner County in Tennessee. All of the funds raised today will go toward building more affordable housing in Sumner County. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
Opportunities. It seemed like you guys were close on multiple occasions, but you just couldn't get it in. How frustrating was that?
Yeah, I know for myself it was extremely frustrating. I thought I was terrible this series and didn't generate anything, and it's tough to win. As a guy that sees a lot of minutes, I got to finally generate more, put the puck in the nets, and I know other guys feel that too. It's tough, especially power play. Plenty of opportunities there to help us out, give us a better chance to win. So it's disappointing. I know for myself, it's frustrating. It's brutal.
That was Ryan O'Reilly after Game 6. You sense the frustration there. And no matter what Ryan O'Reilly does, he could have a hat trick. And if they lose, he will always say, I didn't do enough. He said I was terrible this series. I don't think that Ryan O'Reilly was terrible in this series, but I do think that that's a microcosm of probably what we could pinpoint as one of the reasons why the Predators fell short in this series is you didn't get enough production, not just from Ryan O'Reilly, but Roman Josi, Gus Nyquist, Philip Forsberg. As much as they did and as much as they showed up on the box score, you still needed a little. I at least found myself wanting a little bit more from those guys that we knew that you were going to have to rely on in the playoffs.
I think that's fair. For Ryan O'Reilly, this is what I love about him, and this is why they brought him in. I think you always appreciate a guy that is his own toughest critic.
Totally.
Right? He's being hard on himself there. He expects more from himself, and we just got done saying that at the end of the first segment, he probably, at this stage of his career, is not your ideal number one center, but he grabbed that role, and he made the most of it, and he embraced it. And he said, I am the number one center. I've got to score. I got to make things happen. So everything he said was true. I just think that's what I admire about him, because I look at him and I say, okay, at 32, what's fair to expect from him? And a bounce here, a bounce there, he could have had a couple more goals, right? It just the closing seconds of the game. And I don't want to be harsh, but that is the reason he is there and the team is there, as opposed to two of the guys that they moved on from. And this is nothing personal. It's the two guys that they replaced, but those guys were a lot less apt to take the mantle like that, whether it be with their words or with their actions, to say, God dang it, it's on me. It starts with me.
It was almost a burden for Duchesne and Johansson, I think, more than it was an honor.
Look, Matt Duchene's team is moving on to the second round, okay? And he's fit well. But Matt Duchene, I heard a lot from him. I'm getting the chances. They just aren't going in right now. We're not getting the bounces. And there's not. And factually, that was probably true.
But nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah.
But I like how Ryan O'Reilly takes it to the next step and says, it's about results. I've got to do better. And he doesn't make any excuses at all.
Well, because he understands that, these moments don't come by too often. And when you have a veteran guy like that taking responsibility, that also is for the younger guys. Like, listen.
Yes.
You got to understand.
Yeah, what does that say for the guys who are looking up to him?
Absolutely, because it's like every year is not promised. We may not be back here next year. So I put it on myself that I didn't do enough this series to advance us to the next series. It was my fault. I put it on me. Why? Because I know opportunities like this do not come along every year. You're not promised, just because you're in the National Hockey League, you're not promised to make a Stanley Cup run or be in a Stanley Cup. You're not promised. Things happen. Sometimes it's just everything sort of goes your way. And it seems like this for the Predators, everything didn't go their way. It seemed like they had things that went opposite of what they were trying to go out there and accomplish. So guys like him, they understand, like, listen, I'm taking responsibility, because these young guys need to know when we don't win, it's because of a reason. And I'm one of the reasons we didn't win. Yeah, I may have played pretty good, but there are times that I didn't. And I recognize that, because I know there's a slim margin between advancing and going home. And we saw it in front of our eyes. You called it out. Yeah. 13 goals to 12 goals. If you look at that whole series, it was close. Everything was close. Even
it wasn't
the power
just the
play.
Goals, the shots.
It wasn't like they scored a bunch of power plays either.
No.
It was 2-2.
Exactly.
2-2. Now, where the power play missed the opportunity was because it's not just they scored 2, we scored 2 kind of thing, right?
It's the difference of Game 3.
Exactly.
Game 3, Vancouver won the game on their power play. They bottled them up on the right day. Other than that, Nashville's penalty kill was great. But Nashville also had more power play chances. They had more opportunities on power plays. They had the 5-on-3 in the one game. They had the double minor in Game 6, where they just didn't generate
4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Generate what? 2 shots?
Yeah, they just didn't generate enough. I think that's because the other way a power play can beat you is even if you don't score, it saps the other team of energy. But when your power play isn't clicking, the penalty kill and the crowd gain momentum. They're like, you can't score on us, even when you have the power play. That energizes you. Like in Vancouver, when Nashville didn't score on the power play, there was a surge in the crowd. There was an energy boost for the Canucks, and that's not how you want it. If you don't score, you want them to say, whew, they didn't score, but my God, that was close. That took a lot out of us.
It should
We
be an
barely
energy
held them
creator.
up. Like you watch when the Rangers, when the Avalanche, when the Oilers, especially the Oilers, go on the power play, it's a we are in deep you-know-what. We are in trouble. And that is the ultimate weapon that a power play can be. And Nashville, they had a good year on the power play. It was way, way better than it was last year. But that's where they have to get to, right? They want to get to the point where the power play in the playoffs can be a difference maker. It was a missed opportunity.
It was a massive missed opportunity
Yeah.
to go along with the theme, I think, of the series is, missed opportunities is the big umbrella with several different bullet points underneath it. And rather than, you're talking about when Edmonton goes on the power play, you're thinking, oh, great. That's how I felt when Nashville went on the power play. I was like, oh, great, freaking power play.
Yeah, see, that's what, and I didn't have that during the regular season.
Yeah.
During the regular season, I thought that they won a lot of games with key power play goals.
Yeah.
When the game was on the line, they were able to get the big power play goal. But in the playoffs, unfortunately, they scored on the very first one. And then it became a little bit of they were thinking about it.
Yeah.
How do we fix it? What's going on? They got the big one in Game 5 to stay alive. But by and large, there was too many times where it wasn't that big positive feeling. We're on the power play. We're going to take it to you. We're going to win this game with that. So that's definitely, when you list the reasons how they came up just a little bit short, that's definitely one of them.
It's power play. It's not getting enough from your veterans, from your top guys. I also saw a lot of discussion from Predators fans on social media of, the blame pie, so to speak, of some of the roster decisions that Andrew Burnett and most notably, most recently, Tyson Barrie not in the lineup in Game 6. I can't, Andrew Burnett is a great coach. Andrew Burnett is a Jack Adams finalist for a reason. And Andrew Burnett absolutely deserves it. He and Barry Trotz, what they did this season, turning this roster around, turning this team around midway point through the season. But if we're looking at the blame pie, Willie, where do you put Andrew Burnett in some of his roster decisions?
I really don't. I don't put any of it on him, really. I don't put anything on that. I think the Barry decision was a very tough decision. The other thing that I think they wrestled with throughout the series was, do I try somebody else in Novak's spot just to see? But I think ultimately, and this is, I think, the position they're in as a franchise, and I think we'll hear it. I think we're going to play the clip of Burnett when he was asked specifically about Novak.
Yeah.
Is you got to find out. This guy is signed for the next few years, so you have to throw him out into the deep end and maybe say, okay, he might suffer a little bit here. He's going to take his lumps. Maybe he'll bust through. We hope he busts through. But in the future, now we'll know. And now he'll know what it takes to win in the playoffs. So if there are two things that I think they were struggling with the roster, I think those were the only two. The Barry thing came out of absolute desperation, right, when Shen got sick. But once Barry played a good game and sparked the power play in Game 5, I do think they gave it a lot of thought of, do we keep him in there one way or the other in Game 6? Because I do think they still feared that with just the ruggedness of the series and how hard it was to defend, that they wanted their best defenders in there, and they were willing to trade that off. Of Barry's ability maybe to make a play. But it was I think it was a tough decision.
Well, it had to be a tough decision. And that's what I wondered. Because to me, if you're going to play the odds, we're going to be on a power play at least 3 times. It's just a given. At least 3 times a game, we were going to be on a power play. If our power play isn't working, and really the only time we saw it sort of remotely work, or the passes being smooth and everything, is when Tyson Berry was in there. Mm-hmm. And then you go into a do-or-die game. This is why I don't envy any coach, listen, because they have to make the tough decisions. And Willie talked about it early. He had the drips. It's sort of like the suds. I was thinking of suds like SpongeBob when he was sick. Back in the day, he woke up with the suds. But the drip, when you just constantly it just keeps you awake. Like, what do I need to do? What moves do I need to make? Exactly. So I know that kept him up, as well as the other, members of the coaching staff. But I think that may be a decision, because I can understand why they wanted to keep Novak in. It's like, okay, let's let this young man get some experience, because our plan is we're going to need him in the future. We want to sign him back, whatever the case may be. We're going to need him. So this experience that he may have in the playoff may be beneficial for the future. We may have to sort of suffer right now to gain the reward at the end with Novak. But when you do that, are you, cutting off your nose to spite your face? In a sense, like, okay, we want Novak to get this experience, but the other guys want to win. Yeah. Novak wants to win too. And but when do you sort of say, okay, the greater good is remove Novak, put Barry in there, let's see what this power play does, because with Novak in there, we wasn't doing much of nothing. So let's put Barry, at least we had some flow in the power play. So what do? That's a decision as a head coach I don't envy. Yeah. Because either way, if it doesn't work, people are going to scream, you should have put him in the game.
Right. And it's not a 1-for-1, because they don't play the same position, but it's skill versus size and defender.
Exactly.
Like the other thing that in retrospect, once they did put Yuso Parsonen in, he definitely looked like he belonged. Uh-huh. And I wonder, had he been in there for more of the games, could he have ended up? Because we know he's got some skill, right? But he's also got the size that Novak doesn't have. Was he maybe more built for the series than Novak? And they do play more or less the same position. Yes. Could you argue that I would have loved to have seen, if you could have a do-over, that double minor with Barry in there running the point? Mm-hmm. Do their chances of scoring go up? Maybe. But also, if you have Barry in instead of Shen, or if you have 7 defensemen, is there a chance that he gets exploited in a game that was, razor's edge, right? 0-0 for 58 minutes, that maybe the breakdown happens and you're down 1-0 earlier in the game. So all of these are the what-ifs that we'll never know.
Those were the questions that, frankly, my answer was before the game. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's a wrong answer today. That it would be easy for me today on Monday to look back and say, well, that was the wrong decision because it didn't work. That was the wrong decision because you ended up losing. But really, in hindsight, I think that you could have found enough support or enough evidence to say, no, this is why I think that this is the right decision, and I can't really dispute that. I don't think that the Predators lost because Tyson Berry wasn't in Game 6. Right. There are so many more reasons beyond just Tyson Berry being in or out in Game 6.
If you actually look at it, they generated in Game 6 more offense in terms of expected goals than they had in a lot of the games, games 1 through 5. They had enough chances to score. Mm-hmm. And look, we have got to give a little credit to Shelovs, the young goalie. I was impressed. He got the job done. If you did it all over again, would he do the same? I don't know, but he got it done. They easily could have gotten a goal or two. And by the same token, Vancouver got more chances than they had been getting in Game 6. And I thought that was Saros' best game. And I thought Game 5 was a great game for him.
Game 5 was a great game.
And I thought he was better, had to be better in Game 6 to have it be scoreless where it was. So there's so many what-ifs.
That's another thing that adds to the frustration. Yeah. When you get a performance like that from your goaltender, you need to find a way to win.
Yeah, that's tough.
And Roman Josi even said that after the game. Like, we can't be hanging him out to dry. Like, UC Saros is our backbone. We need to be better for him. You couldn't ask for more from UC Saros. right to your phones on this. Your reaction to Game 6, the playoff series, the season as a whole, and questions that you have about the Nashville Predators moving forward. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, we're live out here. Restore Habitat for Humanity of Sumner County, Tennessee. They're making playhouses for children in Sumner County, Tennessee. They're so fun. It's a blast. Come out here. The funds raised today will go toward building more affordable housing in Sumner County. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, we're broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We are broadcasting from Restore in Gallatin at 327 Sumner Hall Drive. The event happening is at Habitat for Humanity, where you can shop for second-hand building supplies and more. So check them out at restoresumner.com. Let's get right into your phones on the Predators. Your reaction to the playoff series, your reaction to the season, and questions that you have about the Predators moving forward, unless we have some thoughts.
Let's go to the phone.
Let's get to it. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. One texter texts in and said, Barry Trotz said no one expected them to get there, so the pressure would be on the Canucks and that they could play more freely. It just never really seemed that way. It seemed like they were the nervous team the whole series. I did feel that way at times.
Yeah, I think...
Especially toward the end of games. I think the end of game 4, the last few minutes, and then in overtime, that was the most obvious where I felt like they got a little bit tense.
A little tense because they were leading, and then, it was 3-1, then 3-2, then all of a sudden it's 3-3, and then we know what happened. So you can look at instances in certain games where you feel that the Nashville Predators probably, it seemed like the pressure was on them to hold on rather than to go out there and win a game. So, I mean, I would agree that, maybe 1 or 2 games it seemed that way. But I think the totality of the series, I think the pressure was on Vancouver to win the series because they were the higher seeded team.
I thought Vancouver handled the pressure that you're under when you are a Canadian team. I thought they handled that part of it very well. I did not see. I was hoping there would be a game or two in the series where it was Vancouver that just opened up the door and made the big mistake, especially given the fact that Nashville's one of the few advantages they had was that they had the veteran team. They had more playoff experience. But to their credit, especially with the with the backup goaltenders having to go in there, they did not have that, and that's a credit to them. So I didn't think it was about that, really. I thought both teams showed a lot of mental toughness. I didn't see nerves or anything like that. I go back and I said it, the way I said it in the first hour was, or the first segment was, in Game 4, if that's what we're going to focus on, to have those 3 things happen in a row, goal, hit the post on the empty net shot, goal. I think if you played that game over 100 times, that might happen 1 or 2 times out of 100. It's just the way they sometimes. But I don't think it was because they were nervous or hadn't been there before or anything like that. It's just the way it happened. I didn't think they were tight or anything like that. That was just my sense.
It's fair to keep going back to Game 4 because that feels like the biggest missed opportunity.
No question.
Eric is on the line with a thought on the Preds. What's up, Eric?
Hey, guys, usually I don't call and talk about hockey, but I'll be honest. When the game was Friday, if you asked the honest opinion, it got me on there, I really didn't think the Predators would win. And why? Because with this loss, they've now lost 6 straight games at home. I mean, that's just so unbelievable. Smashville, and you feel bad for the fans to go to all these hockey games because if you want to advance, you got to find some way, somehow, to win these home games. And definitely the last 2 home games were frustrating. They had the lead late and couldn't hang on, and then the way the last game ended is just so frustrating. It's like, what can you do to kind of turn this around the way and get a home playoff win? They haven't won a home playoff game, guys, in 3 years. I mean, that's just wild to me. But, guys, I'll get your thoughts. Y'all take care. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah,
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it.
If you take a look, 3 losses this year, all by 1 goal. And all in games where I thought they played well enough to win. They didn't win. The 2 against Colorado are in a different category to me. That was a little bit more of a mismatch. That's 2. Eric mentioned it's 6 straight now. Then the last one was overtime against Carolina, which was overtime. They had the lead. If you want to go dig a little deeper, Roman Josi got knocked out of the game on a vicious hit when they had the lead. They had won the 2 previous home games there.
They won 3 and 4, yeah.
Yeah, both in double overtime, or I think both in double overtime. Definitely in overtime.
Yeah.
At least one of them was in double overtime. So it was razor's edge, but they got it done. So yeah, I see the stat, 6 straight home losses, but they all have their own kind of definition there. But I would not have thought the way they were playing that they would lose 3 at home in this in this series.
Mostly,
I didn't think.
Mostly when I thought that they outplayed Vancouver in games 3 and 4.
Well, I mean,
Definitely. And game 6, I think, was more even.
Yeah.
Could have gone either way. But, yeah, somewhere in there, the way they played, I thought that you should get a win there.
they didn't make Bridgestone a home ice advantage. It just didn't happen. You didn't win a game.
And it wasn't because of the crowd.
Yeah.
I thought the crowd was awesome. I thought the crowd was
Fridays,
awesome.
Listen.
I wasn't there, so give me the lowdown.
Listen.
I thought the Fridays crowd was incredible.
Willie said it was
6.
incredible. I said it was inconsistent. And I can understand why it was inconsistent.
You're talking about game 6 Friday or game 3?
Friday.
Okay.
Game 6. It was inconsistent. I know why it was inconsistent, but I think fans got to fight through that inconsistency. It was inconsistent because the game was so hard fought. There was like
and there weren't any goals.
It was just this bad, and it so the crowd just couldn't. It was like they were waiting, and then when something seemed like it was about to happen, then they got into it. What I was expecting to see or hear is what I saw and heard on television. Now, television could give a sort of a different sort of a false reality of what the game really is like. Mm-hmm. It seemed like on television in Vancouver, they didn't sit down. That's what it seemed like. They didn't sit down. You're at Bridgestone Friday. The fans just couldn't. I was expecting, like, this is it. Like, if we don't win this, or the Predators don't win this, I hate to say we, but if the Predators don't win this, they're going home. So why isn't it noise every single second of this game? Because what y'all don't understand, fans, is that energizes players. Mm-hmm. Even when we're in this tough back and forth, and we may not even be paying attention, because everything a lot of times gets silent for players. They don't hear everything what's going on because you're in the game. But if you stay in it, fans, you give the team the energy they need.
And you didn't think they had that?
I don't think not throughout the whole game. Okay, not throughout the whole game, Willie. But I understand why. I said I understand why, because of the nature of the game and how there was not a lot of exciting hockey.
Okay, right. Well, this is definitely this is
goals.
what makes
Let's
it
say
tough.
That. Exciting goals. Let's say that. Yeah.
So game 3 and game 6, Nashville doesn't score. Except for the one goal at the very end of game 3. That's tough for the home crowd.
Yeah.
And I thought in game 3 there was a little more frustration. I think fans got caught a little off guard in the earlier start. I didn't think they were there ready to go right from the get-go. I didn't think there was a lot of talk about the game ops and the pump-up video and everything like that. But I thought by game 6, they got the pump-up video right. I thought all of the calling out of, hey, fans get there early. And throughout the third period. Mm-hmm. So I thought they really brought it, given the fact that the team didn't score. It's easy to go crazy when the team scores 2 or 3.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
So I thought the crowd was great. I really did. And I thought the game ops got better as the series went along. It's just unfortunate, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing where you're saying the table is set to get one of these games home. Just get one, and you're going back to Vancouver for a game 7. And so that's what stings more than anything else. But it's all in this context of there were so many good things to get to that point.
Yeah. And I wasn't there for game 6. I was there for game 3, and I can personally attest that it was pretty quiet in the beginning, and it took a little bit of time to get ramped up and for the crowd to get energized. I can't speak to game 6, but I can say any videos that I saw on social media looked pretty poppin'. Yep. But I will reiterate
and
a
game
sentiment.
4 was awesome, too, when they thought they were in position to win. It was going
the catfish
bonkers.
snap.
Yeah, it was.
And then we had
awesome.
a Taylor Lewan chug. Yeah. How could that's a recipe for rambunctiousness?
Those guys had a very good time. Let me tell you, all the Titans guys.
One of the loudest. It was the loudest. And see, this is why it's like I don't understand it from a fan standpoint. I am just now becoming a fan, like because I played for so long, so I was on the other side, and trying to get like the fans' perspective and why they cheer and why they don't. They showed Nicole Kidman, and they went berserk.
They did.
Okay,
they did.
They did.
They did.
I love Michelle Kidman. I love her movie. Nicole Kidman. I call her Michelle Kidman. Nicole Kidman. I love Nicole Kidman. Love it. but she shouldn't get a bigger round of applause for your team. That's what I don't understand, Willie. I don't.
It is weird.
She get a bigger a round of applause and yells and screams louder than the guys that are out there putting it on the line. I don't understand that about Nashville hockey fans. I don't. Like, they show like these celebrities, and I get it. I understand why, but they're getting a louder ovation or louder than the team, and they're working their ass off trying to get a goal. That's what I don't understand about Nashville hockey fans. That I don't. I really don't.
I would say, though, it's so unique. The Smashville standing O in general is something that I have not seen in any other sports venue where there is not a sign that goes off that says, guys,
exactly.
we're going to do a Smashville standing O. It has to be organic. It has to come from the team. It has to build from the crowd. And there's got to be that moment where everybody's like, yeah, let's go. Here we go. And it builds. Mm-hmm. It's hard. You ever try to cheer for 90 straight seconds? Like, it can't be easy, right?
Oh, sure.
And so how do you keep the fans – how do you keep the flames – oxygenized or whatever. That's when you got to go to George Kittle, Nicole Kidman. But then there's other people like Paul McCann. He gets them going, right? He just puts his hand up to his ear. He gets his face right into the camera, and it surges. And then there's guys like Predmex, just the regular fans. You put him on, and he can get them going. But it's a really special thing. So it's not always just the celebrities. So it is unique to Smashville. That's what really pulls at my heartstrings and I'm sure that if I feel like that, I know Roman Yossi and those guys feel even more like that because they see that, right? They want to come through for those fans.
But they feel the energy. That's why I understand why, at least in my opinion, everybody has their differing opinions, but that to me, that's the conundrum that you're in. Like, how do you keep the fans involved in a game that is just like so defensive?
Right, 0-0.
Yeah, 0-0.
That's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, that. I think any fan will tell you that's got to be the hardest type of game to stay in it because you're like, we got to get him.
Exactly.
We got to get him going. But there's nothing that naturally gets you going when it's 0-0. Even though I thought it was still for a 0-0 game, I didn't think it was a boring game at all. It was.
No,
it was
it
just in
boring.
the trenches. So it was the competition, the fierceness of it had you on the edge of your seat, I thought, throughout the whole – really every game was like that.
It's a style of hockey that I think the hockey hardos salivate over, but maybe the casual fan that isn't –
they'd rather see 4-3.
They want to see more goals. They want to see more offense. They want to see more Golden State Warriors on ice. But the Predators didn't lose this series because of the crowd. The Predators did not lose this series because they didn't play Run This Town in Game 3. And to your point, Willie, about the 6-game losing streak at the playoffs at home, every single one has its own story, and I can't say Bridgestone Arena is cursed, that the Predators should play every playoff game away from home. I can't say that. In Game 3, you went 0-for-5 on the power play. They went 2-for-3. That was the difference. In Game 4, you blew a 3-1 lead because you had a couple of defensive breakdowns in front of the net and you couldn't hold on. Game 6, it was incredibly tough, incredibly defensive forward. You had a great performance from your goaltender. You just couldn't find the net.
Yeah.
It's not because of
but that's a big problem.
Playing at home.
Those
are much bigger
problem.
problems than Run This Town. Those are much bigger problems than the number of catfish that are on the ice. Let's continue this conversation because, as I promised, we are right back into your phones. But also, as we recap this playoff series, this season, let's start to look ahead. Let's start to preview some of the tough questions and conundrums that Barry Trotz is facing throughout the offseason. We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase join Cromwell Media along with local athletes and musicians at Hermitage Golf Course on June 20th for the 615 Open. Make a difference while supporting Souls for Souls. Every $20 raised goes to a new pair of shoes for a local child experiencing homelessness. Sign up to play or sponsor at 615open.com.
Happy Monday, everyone. Hey, listen, let's talk about Zen Sports, okay? The new sports book in Tennessee that brings sports betting to a whole new level, and I mean that literally. When you sign up for Zen Sports, you'll automatically earn up to $1,000. No danger first wager. If your first bet loses, you'll be reimbursed for the amount of your bet up to $1,000. Zen Sports offers true odds on all parlays and boosted same-game parlays for all Tennessee sports teams. And that means boosted up to 20% over other books in Tennessee. And there's even more good news, people, because we love good news here on this show. Zen Sports offers a one-of-a-kind VIP program, reward program. If you qualify, you'll earn monthly comps at sporting events, concerts, you name it, even sport book bonuses. And we have a bunch of concerts here. You know that. We just had 3 this weekend. The VIP program by one person. The VIP program is by invite only. So if you feel that your Zen Sports play qualifies for the VIP consideration, check out the program details and apply at zensports.com/VIP. So what are you waiting for? The daily game parlays, boost, go quick. All right? So get going and download their app at zensports.com today. That's Zen Sports, where betting just got better. And remember, gambling problems, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game and The Game Nashville app. We are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. And we are broadcasting live from in Gallatin at 327 Sumner Hall Drive. We've got the Predators, Titans, volunteers from all around Nashville building playgrounds for families in Sumner County. So the event is happening at Restore today, where you can shop for second-hand building supplies and more. So check them out at restoresumner.com. We'll catch up with TD, Teron Davenport, in 1 hour. We've got rookie minicamp going down later this week. We had Tyler Boyd in Nashville at the end of last week, so we'll catch up with TD about all of that. But first, we're talking Predators. And as I promised, we're to your phones all show long. But as we recap the playoff series, recap what went wrong for the Predators Game 6 throughout all 6 games, let's also look ahead. Because this is going to be an incredibly intriguing offseason for Barry Trotz. And obviously, I don't think it's going to get the same maybe local coverage as this past off season when you had Barry Trotz in his first season as a GM, when you had Andrew Burnett in his first season as head coach, when Barry Trotz really could have gone several different ways with how he wanted to build the roster. I still think, D-Mase, you called it earlier, a pivotal point for this franchise. That's exactly what it is. Several questions, pivotal questions that Barry Trotz is going to be forced to have to address in this offseason. I think the number one question that all these other questions could be, hinged upon is UC Saros. You could bring UC Saros back next season. You don't necessarily have to address his contract this offseason. I don't know how wise it would be to let UC Saros go to free agency next year. That Barry Trotz could decide to re-sign UC Saros this upcoming offseason, which could be within the ballpark of 7 years, $7 million, 8 years, $8 million. It's going to be between 6 to 8 years and $6 to $8 million, and whatever combination you want of years and money. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a hefty contract. Or Barry Trotz can decide to move on from UC Saros if there's a buyer. You run it back with Kevin Lankin and decide to move on to the Askarov era if and whenever he's ready. That's the biggest question, is what does Barry Trotz decide to do with UC Saros? And Elliot Friedman talked about that on the 32 Thoughts podcast. His thoughts on this upcoming offseason for the Nashville Predators.
I think you're totally right. I mean, they'll have a Saros decision to make. I saw some takes that, this is proof that Saros can't win around. I think that's just crazy. I really do. I think that's absolute crazy talk. I think the guy is very valuable. And you always have to negotiate a contract and make someone, and two sides have to be happy. But it's going to be, and they do have a really good young prospect who's tackling people in the American Hockey League playoffs in Askarov. But, I just think overall, what you've got in Saros.
I do love the imagery of Askarov just taking a beating to everybody, just tackling everybody.
He kind of literally did. And they're down 0-2. He has not shined. I think since the amazing winning streak, right? I can remember us talking about this right around the trade deadline. Milwaukee had won 19 in a row, and I think Askarov had won 14 of the 19, and he had, 6 shutouts in there. He was riding high. And Barry Trotz said it in one of his interviews with Jared. He said, I think he was a little disappointed because he thought something was going to happen. Either Lankinen was going to get traded or he would get called up, and he didn't get that chance, and I think he allowed a little bit of the disappointment. Plus, on top of that, Milwaukee went through a really tough injury situation where the team around him wasn't as airtight, and he's gone through some struggles. But in the big picture, these are good things for him, right? Because you're not going to have smooth sailing your whole career, especially as the goalie. You've got to be able to handle tough times. So this, in the big picture, I think is good for him. But it also illustrates that it's easy to say, wow, look at this guy. He's dominating the AHL. Bring him up. He's ready.
Yeah.
And that's a little premature, right? He's so young. I think in a perfect world, this is just what I've heard, and I would encourage people to listen to Elliot's full 32 Thoughts. He spends a lot of time on the Predators. He suggests this, and I've heard this from some other people. I think in a perfect world, Saros is the goalie, and Askarov is the backup next year. I think they would like to see that. But the world isn't perfect, right? You've got to have the right numbers. You've got to have the right things happen. We don't know what other opportunities could be out there. And so I think it comes down to a fundamental question for me is, do you think you can win in the future in the playoffs, deep in the playoffs, a Stanley Cup with UC Saros as your goalie? I think yes is the answer, but I also, in a perfect world, don't want to have to pay him ridiculous money because people are throwing out some comparables.
Yeah.
You know, Ilya Sorokin and Connor Hellebuck. And UC Saros has been one of the best 5 or 6 goalies over the last 4 years in the NHL in the regular season. But he is coming off a year where he wasn't lights out, and they didn't win in the playoff series, and that's still the one thing he hasn't done is win a playoff series. So I turn around in my GM hat and say, does that mean I could get him at a little better price to where I could leave some money? I can sell him. All right, Juice, you take this. You live in Nashville. You're getting more for your money, and you're leaving me room to go get you better players on the margins so we can have a championship team. Can I sell him on that? To me, that's where the discussion is going to start.
I'm sure if you talk about it long enough, you probably could sell him. And I'm sure
David Poyle sold a lot of people on that kind of thing and got them to take a little less than they probably could have got. Ryan Ellis comes to mind, Roman Yossi's second contract. You can go down a long list. Victor Arvidsson was in there. A lot of guys like that.
He should be, if indeed that was sort of the scenario. I'm sure there are guys in that locker room that would talk with UC because they've been through it too, especially the veteran guys that have been with that team for a long time. You know, could I possibly go and get more money somewhere, or could I hold out for a little bit more money? Yes, but in the big scheme of things, you know, signing the contract that I have was equivalent to what I probably, you know, was getting, say, if I went to New York or somewhere else because of the taxes. But listen, if I'm Barry, you know, obviously this is a huge dilemma. If I'm Barry, I think it would be better for both parties if you just let the season play out. I think, you know, you allow the goalie to, you know, allow UC Saros to come in and knowing that, you know, this is his potentially be his last season. So how are you going to start the season off? You can use that as a motivation. Yeah. Like, listen, we want you back. You know that, but based upon last year, you know, and you're not getting younger, even though I love Saros, me personally, but as a GM, I'm thinking, hey, listen, this is the year you prove to us that you are in the future for us. You are a part of our future. Or not. You know, basically.
Bet on yourself.
You bet on yourself. Go out there and get the job done. We know what type of player UC Saros can be and has been for the most part. But last year was that season that you don't want to have as a professional when your contract is looming over your head. You don't want to have the season that you have where it's been inconsistent. You did come on late in the season, but then the playoffs, it wasn't your fault, but it's like, okay, you didn't let in 1 or 2 soft goals, but it really wasn't your fault. I know that. So you have to, as a GM, you have to say, listen, okay, how do we look as a team moving forward with him on our team? How do we look as a team not with him on our team moving forward? And what would it cost us to sign him now compared to after the season next year? Is it going to be that much of a difference? Like, for instance, if he has a great year, say we were going to pay him, the Predators are going to pay him $9 million now. Before the season starts, we're going to give you $9 million. Okay, you don't have a great season. You have a great season. How much more then would I have to pay you? Maybe $1 million more, maybe $2 million more. That's what you got to weigh. Like, okay, yeah, we could pay him an extra $2 million if we wanted to, but let's let the season play out because we may not have to pay him that extra $2 million. We may only have to pay him $8 million. We can give the rest to other people to surround him. But if he has a great season, we got to know, we got to be prepared that we may have to pay this man $11 million.
And get ready for a lot of levels to this conversation.
Exactly.
Because Elliott had a great analogy, I thought, during the season when he was talking about goalies. And I think most of the people listening probably play fantasy football. And there's a long tested strategy of fantasy football of you don't take the quarterback. When I first started playing fantasy football, which is scary, in the mid-1980s, like Dan Marino was the first. Dan Marino was always the first pick, right? And the quarterbacks were always the first guys picked. But then there became a school of thought after a while that you don't take the quarterback in the first round, right? Because there are probably about 10 to 15 quarterbacks in a given year that end up having about the same amount of production, right? And if you look at hockey, there's a lot of teams that have chosen to go that way with the goalies. They figure, okay, we'll get a good goalie. We'll find a good goalie. There's a lot of good goalies out there. And we'll concentrate by paying that goalie a little less. We'll concentrate our resources on building the great team in front of them.
Yeah.
Now, it's worked and it hasn't worked. Vegas worked real well for them last year. They used 5 different goalies during the season, and they won the whole thing. What happened this year? They just lost in the first round.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't think it was because of the goalie, but would a great goalie have made a difference in a 7-game series? Maybe. I don't know. But Vegas is a different animal. But there are teams that have, like Colorado was so powerful a couple years ago, they won it without a great goalie, and they've switched their goalie. They're like, okay, well, just give us a good goalie. We're going to budget a certain amount for that. We'll go with it. So there's that part of it. That there was some to say, regardless, take Saros out of it. He's a great goalie. But do you want to spend that much money on your goalie? Is that the best way to build a championship team? And if you're going to pay elite money for the goalie, or if you're going to use your first-round pick on Patrick Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes better come through for you and be way better than those other quarterbacks. In many years he is, right? So I think that's going to be where you're trying to find that balance. I don't think there's any question in my mind that you can win in the playoffs with UC Saros. And I think he is going to fill all the check marks in. Is he going to is he going to work hard to stay healthy? Does he have the mental toughness? Is he going to stay physically in shape in his 30s? I have no doubt that that's going to be the case there. But I am going to try to work that cap number down as much as I can and try to sell him on, yes, Juice, you're elite, but I need the elite team around you to win. That's our best way of winning the Stanley Cup. But I can see his agent going, yeah, that sounds great, but you're one of the best.
Yeah.
So this is your last chance for a big contract. Don't you want to cash in? That's what, remember, Philip Forsberg took them all the way into deep into the season before, and he was in the last year of his contract. He almost went to the free agency, right? Almost.
And he signed, like hours before the deadline?
It was not far before the deadline.
Right up to the deadline.
And he did not give them a discount, right? But he was worth it, right?
And as a player, from a player perspective, I don't think that you owe that to anybody to give you a discount. I think that's the key question, though. Because if you sign Saros, let's say it's 8x8, 8 years, $8 million, which feels like it'll be in the ballpark. That's $8 million that you aren't able to pay an elite forward, something that is a proven formula to winning a Stanley Cup. So the question of the day, the question of the offseason is, how do the Predators get to a Stanley Cup? How do the Predators get back into the playoffs, get past the first round of the playoffs, and become a cup contending team? There are so many different formulas. If it was easy, every team would do it, and obviously not every team is doing it. Is paying the goaltender and tying up $8 million a season into a goaltender the best and most expedited path to a Stanley Cup? And D-Mase, what you bring up about going into the season and just status quo with Saros, not moving on from him, not signing him, but just going into the final year, that's an option that's on the table for Barry Trotz. My only concern with that is, right now I view UC Saros as one of the Predators' greatest assets, not just on the ice, but trade assets as well. Can I stomach letting UC Saros walk for nothing at the end of this upcoming season in free agency? And obviously you have the trade deadline. If you want to make up your mind for a desperate team that feels like they're a great goaltender away from competing in the Stanley Cup, of course that's an option. But if you go into this season with UC Saros unsigned and you let him walk in free agency, I have to question, how many draft picks is that? How many potential elite forwards could that have been that you didn't get in return because you wanted to run it back one more year with UC Saros?
I mean, yeah, but then also, you can get into a situation where, he plays out the contract and, you try to get, from this standpoint, I think if you allow the season to go, that last season, I think you would have a better opportunity, at least in my eyes. I think you would have a better opportunity at signing him next year as his contract is expiring rather than this season. Because to me, I think you let it, you sort of lay out this fair groundwork. Like, listen, if you go out there and do what we believe you can do, then you're going to be one of the top goalies as far as money-wise. You're going to be one of the top goalies in hockey. If you don't, that doesn't mean we don't want you on our team.
Yeah.
But that means now we give ourselves a little bit more room to go out there and build a team around you, UC Saros, because I think in any case, they want to sign him back. Whether he goes out and have a great season next year or whether he goes out and have a good season to a subpar season. Now, if he has a horrible season, you got to rethink that. But I don't think UC Saros will have a horrible season. I think it would be something like this year or even better. So that's what you got to weigh. Either he has a repeat of this season, which means you get him for a little bit less, or he makes up for it and have a season that we normally see out of UC, which means you have to pay him a little bit more. Both options you have to prepare for as a team.
That's why I think the summer negotiation is going to be interesting because I first of all, we could have a very, I think, lengthy discussion. We could bring on a lot of people, and I've behind the scenes tried to go out and get as many opinions as I can on how would you grade him in this particular series?
Yeah.
Because what is going to be floated out there, and people have already done it, is, and you heard Elliott say it, right? He hasn't won a playoff series, right? There's only 3 series, so he's 0 for 3, and I think they're all 3 very different series. But for this particular series, it was a very difficult series. You can't just look at the goals against, the save percentage, and say, well, that's how he played, because it was a series of a lot of shots weren't getting through. There was a lot of dangerous chances that didn't result in a shot or a save.
Yeah.
But Saros has something to do with that. So I would say, if I'm grading, I thought he graded pretty well. You can't give him an A, right, because they didn't win the series. But I don't think you can go any lower than a B. That's just my opinion. I thought he played very solid. He played well enough to where if they had gotten a break, a bounce, played a little bit better, they could have won in theory, could have won the series.
He gave up 13 goals in 6 games.
But that's where that $8 million versus $5 million comes in. Like, okay, if you're going to pay for $8 million, that's what you're paying. The extra is for him to elevate you over the top. And I thought maybe game 1 is the one where you could say, if he goes out and steals game 1 and is just rock solid and doesn't crack in the slightest, maybe they can find a way to win another game in there. So that's where you're starting to say, okay, what would that look like if you had another goalie in there? One that was not paid as high? I don't know. Maybe that goalie cracks and you get blown out in the series because they couldn't handle the kind of pressure that they had. These are the things you got to weigh. So that's why I think the discussion in this offseason is interesting, because his stock is a little down. He's not coming off of a Vezina nominee. He's not coming off of a playoff win. And so maybe you can get him for less than 8.
Yeah.
In my mind, to me, that's the game. That's the game
but
you're
is
playing.
that something that you see? Again, it goes back to what I was
his
saying.
Agent, what do you say?
We'll wait until after the season.
Yeah.
We'll wait. Let the season play out. If you want to play us 7 now, I know we're not going to be worse than what we were last year.
Yeah.
Then let the season play out. And if we revisit it and it's still at 7, then okay. But you got to understand, if it doesn't, then that means we're going up in price.
And what does the market look like?
Exactly.
Because all of the teams in the league are looking at the Winnipeg Jets and Connor Hellebuck and saying, well, you just paid him all of this money, and
he got lit up.
He got lit up. So is the value of elite goaltending, or at least expensive goaltending, has that gone down a little bit? And it's all about finding those scores. It's all about finding the skaters, and you want to tie up your money more on those kinds of players. It's not just the conversation that we're having here. That's the conversation that any team that could be in on the UC Saros sweepstakes is also asking themselves as well. We'll continue with this conversation, and you brought up grades for UC Saros. Let's do that. Professor Willy. Teacher Donick, Mr. Donick, will give the grades, get out the report cards, and, of course, I promised your phone, so we are right to those as well. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We're broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership. Today, our studio is Restore Habitat for Humanity of Sumner County, Tennessee. For more information on their mission and programs, go to the website at habitatsumnercounty.com.
All right, let's talk Loan Pronto. This is the way to go if you are looking for a way to use your home's equity to put yourself in a better position financially. You could be 100% debt-free from the high-interest loans, the cost of living, the credit card bill, the car loan, the personal loans that have high-interest loans that you are having trouble keeping contained. Well, your home's equity is the solution out of that. The average homeowner that plays this game with the Express Equity line of credit program that Loan Pronto has, it's a better game. You're going to save over $850 a month on average. That's what the Loan Pronto people, they've done the research. And so if your budget sounds a little better, paying about $850 less per month, you need to look into this. Call now, because if you're a homeowner, your home's value is likely way up, especially in our listening area. So call now and find out more about the Loan Pronto Express Equity line of credit. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval, equal housing lender.
I think Trotz has to decide whether he wants the known commodity or whether he wants to try a scar off. And I think we could see a drastic change here. I'd be willing to bet that Saros is not on this team next year, as we've already seen him play his last game. And obviously that means you got to sign Kevin Lankinen for the next couple of years, give him a nice run, and that wouldn't be terrible. They wouldn't be, they wouldn't be a bottom team with Lankinen in that either. But I think Trotz probably realizes that he needs to get better skaters rather than just solidify his goaltending situation. He needs difference makers on the ice.
That was Alex Doherty of the Tennessean on with Robbie on Rex Road this morning. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase were live out here at Restore Habitat for Humanity of Sumner County, Tennessee. They're building playhouses today for families in Sumner County. We got the Preds out here, got the Titans out here, got a great group of volunteers helping families in need in Sumner County. So again, that was Alex Doherty. He says he thinks UC Saros may have played his last game as a Nashville Predator. Obviously, that's going to be a conversation that we talk about throughout the summer, throughout the offseason, the big questions facing Barry Trotz. And I'll agree wholeheartedly. You need better skaters. You need to be better on the ice. Now, that could come with a crux of just getting better on the ice, bring up questions about what happens in net. Well, you raised a little bit of an eyebrow when you heard Alex say that there.
Well, I agree with him on his last point, that I think Barry Trotz is looking, how do I get Ryan O'Reilly as he ages another year? And Robbie Stanley just, I think, put out a tweet listing the age of all of the players, and I think you read between the lines. I didn't read if there was a caption that went with it, but it's basically, look, you have a core here that is in their prime or about to get it a little past their prime in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Gus Nyquist is 34, just finished his age 34 year. He was fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't think it's realistic that in the next couple years of his contract you can say he's going to get better, right? If he stayed at that would be amazing. But likely he's going to regress a little bit. So you need to replenish that with some youthful talent, or somewhere in here come up with somebody that bumps everybody down into the role that they're ideally situated for on a winning team, a playoff winning team. So how do you do that? The goalie part of the equation is a part of that discussion. But I would not go as far as he says. I'd be willing to bet that Saros has played his last game. I think a lot would have to happen for that. I think it's much more likely that, as you mentioned, D-Mase, they could play it out into the season next year. If it's unresolved, I think there will be a lot of discussion this summer of, would you take X for the next contract? And if the answer is no, okay, well, your answer is no, well, I got to take a look and see what else is out there then if you're hesitant to commit. There's that game you could play. Yeah. And then you don't know if the call is going to come in with the home run option. Somebody calls like Tommy Fitzgerald and says, all right, Barry, I've been thinking it over. It's the summer now. I got all my stuff lined up here. Here's what I'm willing to offer you. You don't know if that home run call is coming in. So that's something too. But I would still say the percentage chance that Saros is the goalie to start next year is a lot higher than lower. I would say it's at least 70% that he's back.
You do, 70%.
At least to start the season. Yeah. Well, I think it's very. I think it's unlikely that they pull the trigger this summer unless they're just, again, blown away. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what we talked about that for the last year or so. They've yet to be blown away. Yeah.
No, you can't. You can't move UC Saros unless you get a deal that's going to be a no-brainer. Like, okay, where everybody looks at it and say, okay, this was a deal we had to do. It was almost a forced deal. They gave us more than what they gave us what we wanted and a little bit more. Yeah. So we have to make the deal. We would love to keep UC Saros, but this helps build our team. But also you can take this route because, to me, if you want to build a team, you go into the season, this offseason, setting up the framework of a potential UC Saros deal in the future. If you can get it done right now, great. But you're setting up the parameters. But if you don't get it done, this is where now you start to build your team. Like, okay, the money that we probably was going to use on UC, say, to redo the contract or add years this year, whatnot, let's use that to build more around UC Saros. And after the season, if he plays well enough that we feel, he's more of an asset than anything, then now we have the framework, one, and now we know what monies we have to pay him. But we've also been able to set up our team in the process because we didn't rush to sign him this offseason. Yeah, we were talking to him to let him know, hey, listen, we want you back. But we know this is going to be a long, grueling deal. Unless they put something on the table and UC say, you know what, I want to be here. I'm going to take it. I understand I possibly can get more somewhere else, but I want to be here. I want to help this team. I'm going to take less and allow you to build. I could see them doing that right away, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. I don't think he's going to get a deal done this offseason, nor during the season. I think the framework is going to be there, but I think they're going to use this time to continue to build their team. So when they do have to sign UC, they got a team ready to go with them.
I also, the thing that made me raise my eyebrows with Alex's comment there was I don't think that they are even in the ballpark of being ready to hand the reins to Askarov. He's just not ready. He's not ready. I think that they are very ready to allow him to be the backup and be mentored, ideally by UC Saros. I think if you look at Saros, one of the things that makes him great is his even keel ability to control the emotions, the ups and downs of a season, the stresses. It is a stress. He's played more games than anybody over the last 3 years. That is tough, and he has not played on a team that's lights out that gives you, a ton of nights off, right? Yep. There's a lot on his shoulders, and he handles that well. I think Askarov, one of the things I notice about him is we love the swagger.
He's too emotional, you think?
Your greatest strength is your greatest weakness, right? I think what makes him great is the swagger. He's got the talent, and he knows it, and he's got the swagger. But you see on the other side that I think there's a lot of people going, okay, at the top level, the best in the world, is he ready for that night in and night out? No, I don't think so. Yeah. I think there's a next building piece of learn from the icy cool, even-keeled UC Saros. Learn what's right, what's not right, to harness that great ability that you have mentally and physically, right? I think ideally that's what you want. So if you were going to move on for Saros, you would have to fill in that next part of the equation is who's the guy then that helps shoulder the load on Askarov? And that's a big question. That's unknown. And Lankinen could be a part of that, but you got to make a decision because Lankinen's about to go to the free agent market.
Mm-hmm. And are you comfortable with Lankinen being your guy until Askarov grows into that role? That's another question that Barry Trotz has to ask himself. If Kevin Lankinen is, let's say, your goalie for the next 2 years, can he get you to the playoff? Can he steal you a couple of playoff games? Well, obviously the expectations are going to be lower for a Kevin Lankinen than they would be for UC Saros, period. Right. Especially if UC Saros gets signed to 7 years, 8 years, $7 million, $8 million, whatever it might be. And also that question of if you want Askarov to be mentored by UC Saros, can you do that until the trade deadline, let's say the beginning of the season until the trade deadline this upcoming season, have Lankinen take over as the goaltender until Askarov is ready to go if there's a trade partner for UC Saros. Kind of bridge it where he gets some time with UC Saros, and then you get that deal potentially when they pick up the phone for a potential UC Saros trade. So then you don't lose him for nothing, nor are you forced to either lose him for nothing or sign him to that big-time deal.
It is an option, no question. Because I think Lankinen has won over a lot of people since he's been here with his professionalism and his way he goes about it every day. Now, it would be different for him if he's the starter, right? But I think what you would be hoping for is that you would play that game of the fantasy football, right? Lankinen, in theory, could be good enough that if you had a team that has the kind of possession numbers the Predators were able to get, right, where we talked about they're in the top 5. They ended up in the top 6, I think, in O-zone possession time. And that means on the other side they had the other team in their offensive zone. They were top 10 in that. Yeah. So that makes the job easier on the goalie. So if you're saying if you just give me a decent goalie, we'll still be pretty good. But then we get back to can you win in the playoffs with that?
That's the key.
That's the key.
Because I've seen so many texts.
There's not a simple answer here. I'm not going to act like anybody who gives any take is dumb. Right. Because all of these are good theories, right?
I've seen so many texts.
I'm a little bit, I admit, just watching UC Saros day in and day out over all of the years that I've watched him, I have a hard time moving on because I believe he is special. I really believe that he is a special guy that can win, that you can win with. But I know about the capology, and I know about the analytics, and I know what all that's telling me. That's why I'm trying to get, if I could get him for less than what you would think top level market value is, that's what I'm interested in trying to find if I can do this summer.
And it would be easy if the question was just, do you like UC Saros or not? Do you think UC Saros is a great goaltender or not? Do you want to have UC Saros on your team or not? Because obviously the answer is yes. If the question is UC Saros, yes or no, my answer would be yes. But that's not the question. It's all of the caveats of if you sign UC Saros, if it is one of those big-time primo elite goaltender deals, well, what are you sacrificing on the rest of your roster? What do you do with Askarov? Can you afford to have an $8 million goaltender and a high round pick in Askarov that looks like he's coming along and can be an NHL goaltender here in the next, I don't want to give a timeline, but few years.
Yep.
He could be your future goaltender. It's the caveats.
I really think that Askarov's timeline is really 2 or 3 years away. To me, to try to bring him along, and hopefully he has the patience to understand that he can get a lot better between now and age 24, 25, which, if you really look, that's when goalies should start to blossom, when they're in their mid-20s. A lot of goalies flash when they're in their early 20s. Too much is put on them, and then they crash and burn in one form or fashion.
So can you justify signing a goaltender to an 8-year deal if you have this young phenom that's 2 to 3 years away from being
the term is a part of it, too. It's not just the cap number. So 8 years, I don't know that it's a given that it's 8 years. I'm
not sure you can push it out that far.
I think if you're Barry Trotz, you're trying to look at different creative ways. Do I pay a little bit more but maybe have a little less term?
4 years, $9 million? That might be a little bit more palatable in terms of the timeline.
You also have to remember the cap is going to go up, right? The cap, and look, God forbid we have another something that is the reason the cap went down. The
Willy,
pandemic,
don't speak it into existence.
Yeah, Willy, stop it. Take it.
But
Don't even
the
say
league
that.
is healthy, right? They're about to go to Utah. The Arizona problem is about to go away. They might expand, so everybody's going to get more money from that. The cap is going to go up. So $8 million might sound a little steep right now, like, ooh, $8 million for your goal. But that may not be that bad in about 3 years when the cap is up.
No, you're right. So you got to figure out.
So this is all part of it.
Yeah, if you're going to redo it, you got to figure out how much and how long. I think more importantly, now that y'all bring it out, it's not necessarily how much, it's how long. Because you got this young phenom behind him.
He'll be 29 next year.
You got this young phenom behind him, and you have UC there, but you're trying to sort of map it out to where as UC is sort of phasing out, this young guy is ready to phase himself in, just like what you did with Pecorine and UC Saros. That's what you're trying to accomplish here with UC and Askarov.
All right, we're right back into your phones on this coming up next. You probably hear some drills and some hammers in the background.
Working away.
We're at Restore Habitat for Humanity of Sumner County, Tennessee. We've got several volunteers out here building playhouses for families in Sumner County. Habitat for Humanity has partnered with sponsors to provide children with a safe place to play and imagine what the safe home means to them. So we're very proud and honored to be out here today. Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase were brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet. Willy, D-Mase. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. And today, our studio is Restore Habitat for Humanity of Sumner County, Tennessee. And joining us now is the CEO of Habitat for Humanity of Sumner County, Kate Ritchie. Kate, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for having us out here today. What does today mean for you and your entire initiative of Habitat for Humanity?
Well, thank y'all for being out. You know, today is such a fun day. This is really an opportunity for companies to come together, have a team building day to where they get to build playhouses. And about 4 o'clock, we'll have all the kids show up and they'll be able to see their playhouse. And this all raises funds to help us build homes in our first neighborhood, Pafford Place.
It sounds amazing. So if you wouldn't mind just giving us a little bit of background of how you discovered a need for this, for children and families in Sumner County.
Definitely. You know, we are always, obviously, as a nonprofit, on the hunt for money. It does definitely cost a lot of money to build houses. And so just brainstorming one day, we thought, we have all these companies that want to get involved. It's a lot harder for companies, you know, to take staff away from work. And so we said, what if we just did a dedicated day? They get the building skills. They get to build something to its full completion within one day. And then at the end of the day, they're able to be able to gift that over to somebody. So that's really important. Very special.
I love the skills that I'm seeing on display here with
impressive.
all these houses going up. We've watched the process. None of these were up and running when we walked in here, but now here we are a couple hours into the show. We're starting to see it, but the creativity and the uniqueness of each one is pretty cool.
Oh, I just love it. The creativity is so amazing. We have families apply to receive one of these houses back in January. They give a little bit of description, and then we give the creativity back to the business. So they get to just really decide what they want to do, and they're extremely creative.
We've got some dinosaurs back here. We've got butterflies.
I saw the
over
Preds
here.
guys had they have an ice rink in the middle of the floor. Of course, you got to have that, right?
Yes.
Gotta have that.
But we've discussed on this show a lot with stuff that comes up. We are always talking about new stadiums and everything like that. But affordable housing in a growing city is always a challenge and something that's really important, right?
Absolutely. You know, there's an affordable housing crisis across the nation. And here in Sumner County, we're definitely the organization that's addressing that. And we appreciate people that understand our mission and want to come out and help put a decent roof over people's heads.
So when the kids come this afternoon, well, this evening, afternoon, I guess, and they see their houses, their clubhouses?
Playhouse,
Playhouse. I call them clubhouses. Guys call them clubhouses. Girls call them playhouses, okay? It is. So when they come in and they see it, when is it that they actually receive the playhouse?
We'll do delivery over the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
Obviously, they're huge, so we do have to work on some logistics in order to get it to everybody's house. But, so they'll be able to see it today and delivery within 2 weeks.
Okay, well, that's good. I know they're going to be looking forward to it. It's like Christmas in June.
It is. And, you know, a lot of kids, they know they were selected, but they don't really know, like, what they're going to walk into. So being able to see their faces and just the shock. And, you know, not only are they building the playhouses, they'll build stuff and put it inside and give them other little gifts. So, I mean, these companies go above and beyond.
So has there been one or two that you looked at and said, wow?
Well, you know, these are all amazing. Thinking back to last year, there was one that did a bakery, one that did a vet. There was a barn, and it said Hayden's Barn on it.
Oh.
You know, I mean, just real creative.
Okay.
We're talking with Kate Ritchie, CEO of Habitat for Humanity in Sumner County. I'd love to get more into that. Some of the reaction from the children and the families, what their faces look like, how they feel, how grateful they are after they receive some help from Habitat for Humanity.
Oh, definitely. I hope y'all stick around. They're coming at 4 o'clock. It's going to be surprises, and they get to come in. We'll have Brewster's ice cream here, so they get to eat ice cream and tour their playhouse.
So what is next on the horizon? Obviously, today is such a wonderful initiative to be able to provide families with playhouses and support. And also, if you want to come out here, Restore Habitat for Humanity, you can shop for some discounted furniture as well. So what's next on the initiative list? Maybe what are some of your big-term goals?
Yes. So next on our goal list is the funds that we receive from this. That goes directly back into our new construction program. So we're building a neighborhood here in Gallatin. It's 10 houses, 10 affordable houses. The families have been selected for those houses. The families that are in our program, they go through 9 to 12 months of home ownership classes, financial education classes, save for their down payment, and they purchase the house from Habitat. We have very affordable mortgages, and it's just a way to provide stability and decent shelter for everyone.
What about the partnership? Like we were saying, the right in front of us. I don't know if this is coincidence or not, but all of the Predator people building a couple of them here. They all have the gold shirts. We see the Titans have a station over here too, but the relationship with the big sports teams is an important one, right?
Yes, we live in such a giving community, and reaching out to the Predators and reaching out to the Titans, it was an instant yes. There was no begging or pleading. They were like, we want to do this. And so I love that y'all are able to come out today in order to see them. We also have Choke Construction, Pella Windows. I'm forgetting. There's a bunch here, but
too many to name.
Too many,
yes.
And our relationship with Pella Windows is a big reason we're out here too.
Yes.
So shout out to them for sure.
Yeah. Pella is a huge supporter of us, so we're just really grateful for all that they do in our community.
So if some of our listeners would like to get more information, maybe volunteer to sign up for a next build or Playhouse build, where can more people find information about your initiatives?
Definitely join. Go to our website, habitatsumnercounty.org. You can find out all the information. We'll be doing this project every single May, so applications in order to receive a Playhouse open in January of next year.
Wonderful. Kate, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you for everything that you and Habitat for Humanity do. It's an honor to be here today.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all.
Appreciate it. Kate Ritchie, she is the CEO of Habitat for Humanity in Sumner County. Coming up next, we're going to quickly transition to the Titans. Teron Davenport will join us. We had Tyler Boyd visiting Nashville this past week. We've got rookie mini camp coming up later this week, so we'll get into all of that with TD coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game and The Game Nashville app. We're streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Today, we are at Restore Habitat for Humanity of Sumner County, Tennessee. We've got all sorts of playhouses going up. We got the Titans here. We got the Predators here. Volunteers from all over. And we, of course, appreciate our friends over at Pella Windows and Doors for inviting us out here. It is an absolute privilege to be here with Habitat for Humanity of Sumner County. We'll get back into your Preds thoughts. I know an absolute heartbreaker on Friday night, but we transition into Titans talk with our friend TD. Teron Davenport brought to you by ESPN Bet Sportsbook. TD, we had Tyler Boyd in town this past week. Before we get into some specifics on that, just overall, your initial impressions and your thoughts of the Titans' interest in Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a tie, right, with Brian Callahan. They were together in his days and years, et cetera, in Cincinnati. So it makes sense. I think it makes sense for Will Levis, too. You look at just what young quarterbacks like, right? They like guys who are able to work the middle of the field and be very reliable, know where they want to be, and know that they're going to catch the football. And that's exactly what Tyler Boyd is. So it's a match there. This is a move or something that I thought they should look into a while ago, and I think it makes absolute sense.
It's a natural fit, obviously, with the Brian Callahan connection, and also, need a third guy. I would love for it to be Treylon Burks, but can't always count on Treylon Burks to be able to step up, stay healthy, be consistently on the field. I know that that Tyler Boyd left Nashville without a deal, but TD, have you heard anything about how that visit went, or if there could be a deal on the horizon?
No, I haven't heard anything. I was just told that he was there, and that was when he was actually visiting them. That's all that I got. And, I mean, we'll see what happens, right? You got Zay Jones in town now, so there's yet another option.
We'll talk with Teron Davenport. Teron, now, can we just look at this as, because I know when the info came out that Tyler Boyd was leaving L.A. to come here to visit, people just assumed, oh, my goodness, he's going to sign. And my thing was, well, the Titans are not really in a rush they don't have to sign him, so they're not in a rush to sign him. How much or how, in regards to them signing him, how much do you think they're going to wait on, how this thing play out with their own receivers? Because, again, you can bring him in. They did this with D-Hop last year. They brought him in early, sat down, had a talk with him, and then he left. 2-3 weeks later, they end up signing him. That could be the same situation here, but I was even thinking maybe they wait a little bit longer just to see, if what we have in the room is enough.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where they're willing to wait, but I think they would get the deal done earlier than normal if the number is right. I think that's really what it is that price has to get right. Because if it's to the point where it's one of those things where you bring him in, and, hey, he helps, but Treylon Burks emerges. Now you're like, okay, well, you could just move on after that year and have Burks, who emerges. But if he doesn't, then it's like, okay, well, you have your security blanket. So I think it's kind of like a win-win situation for them as long as Treylon Burks emerges. It all really, even though we're talking about signing another receiver, it all really falls on Treylon Burks.
Now, what do you want to see out of this first rookie minicamp, TD? Because obviously these guys are coming in. Some of these guys are going to be counted on to contribute early. So what do you want to see out of these young guys that first day of rookie camp?
Yeah, I want to see how quickly Cedric Gray is able to get lined up and know where he's supposed to be. That's something I'll be watching for with him. T'Vondre Sweat, I mean, the big thing is like, okay, well, let's see, what your conditioning is as you're reporting to camp. We remember a couple of years ago with Treylon Burks when he checked in, it wasn't exactly right. Let's see if T'Vondre Sweat can get off on the good foot, so to speak. And that's something I'll be looking. I'll look to see, how quick Jaquan Jackson is in person. You know what I mean? Look to see that. Look to see how J.C. Latham is as far as getting his steps and, doing everything he has to do from the left side. Is Bill Callahan talking to him? But I tell you what, more than anything else, I'm going to be looking to see how this coaching staff, this is going to be our first time seeing him on the field. So I want to see that energy from Denard Wilson in a press conference. I want to see how much he delivers that same energy on the football field. I want to see how Brian Callahan is going about station to station and working with the different position groups and things like that. That's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Now, should we anticipate, because I know how some of these rookie camps work, where they will add some of the veteran guys. It's more so the guys that have been injured. They want them to come in and be a part of it. Has there been any indication on what veteran guys may be a part of this rookie minicamp?
No, I don't know who's going to be a part of it. I would imagine somebody like Caleb Murphy would be there. You know, I could see that. I don't know who's going to be a part of it. You know, in the past, Mason Kinsey was, but I think his opportunities to do so have kind of run out. So we'll see, but as of right now, no.
Teron Davenport is with us. Teron, let's just take a moment and lament together for Edwin Diaz giving up the game-tying home run with 2 outs and 2 strikes in the ninth. I could taste the victory. But I'm trying to get over it.
Yeah, it happens. You know, it's Edwin Diaz, not Jesus Diaz, so I'll give him a pass.
Okay. You made me feel
Tough
better.
losses for you this week.
We can't beat the Rays. We cannot beat the Rays in Tampa. We'd never beat the Rays in Tampa, like literally.
Yeah.
But, real quick, City Connect uniforms. Are you okay with them?
No, I don't really like them.
I don't either.
I'm not for them. I don't like them.
City Connect uniforms in general, I'm not a big fan. Do the Cardinals have one?
The Cardinals are coming out with one, I believe, in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
But that will be their first City Connect.
By and large, I think we need to downplay the entire idea of the City Connect. It's too much.
Make them good.
Make them good. I find myself most of the time going,
blue and orange. I need those colors in the jersey.
Yes,
that's
absolutely. All right, so Teron, D-Mase has said a number of times, keep an eye on when the cuts start happening in the cap, June 1st, et cetera. Do you feel like there's a little bit more roster construction to do? How busy do you think the Titans will be, or is this pretty much what they're going to roll with?
No, I think there's still some construction to be had. I think, you know, you could look at them, possibly look at the tackle heap if something comes off of there. Look at especially the tight end heap. You know, they got 2 undrafted free agents in there, but, you know, right now you're looking at 5 guys total, right? You know, Odukoya, Chigakonkwo, and Wiley, you know, are the 3 already pretty much there. Then they signed a couple undrafted guys. So I would imagine as tight ends start to shake free, they'll look to add one of them. So, and also edge rusher. I think, you know, there are guys out there already, not exactly the best options, but I could see if somebody gets cut that they add them, you know.
So you think they're still in a cap position where they have some ability to go get a guy if there's something they like?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They could go, and that is by design. They said they wanted to be in a situation where they didn't have to move stuff around. If there's a guy that breaks free, they could go get him. They're at around $27 million in space to send. I think they're the 4th best situation in the league.
Cap space and flexibility is definitely an asset. So, Teron, I didn't get a chance to talk to you. I was in Vancouver a lot in the post-draft days. I'm curious your opinion in particular about T'Vondre Sweat, because that seems like a guy where the draft could hinge on his success, and he definitely has a ceiling that looks like it's really special. But I feel like there's legit concerns there too. How do you go on him based on what you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely legit concerns. You got the weight issue. You got, you know, those types of things that you have to find a way to manage. And I think, you know, if you can work through that, you have a really good player. And you go back and you watch him. He's not just a bull rusher. His hands are really good. He's a guy who has that Tierre Tart, like, really quick swim move to get in the backfield quickly. He told me at the Senior Bowl that he watched Jeffrey Simmons to develop, you know, help develop some of his hands and that usage there. So I think, you know, you look at him, the thing that he does to me is help others, right? Because you put him there after a few bull rushes and forklifting the interior guys back into the quarterback, they're going to start double teaming them. And then what happens? You get Jeffrey Simmons one-on-one, that's usually a win. But then also in the running game, right, being able to sit there and occupy a couple gaps, that is critical, you know, especially when you have linebackers being able to come in and just get clean shots at at running backs and stuff like that. So he helps in multiple ways to just get that weight right. I'm not really concerned about the other stuff, whether it's the DWI or the quote-unquote partying too much in Austin. I think that is something that could be corralled, and it's just a matter of putting the right people in front of him and guiding him in the right direction.
And I'm glad you bring that up, TD, because the player of T'Vondre Sweat is so exciting to me. Anyone that watched that Texas defensive front should be excited about it. And I was listening to Moving the Chains on SiriusXM NFL Radio, and they were talking about, look, love the pick, love the player, but they said, I think the Titans should maybe bring T'Vondre Sweat in on probation. And while probation sounds like a really scary word, it's essentially saying, look, you're on a short leash. Do you think that that's something that the Titans would entertain? And what do you think that would look like just to make sure that T'Vondre Sweat is staying on the right track weight-wise, focus-wise in his first few months in the league?
Yeah, I don't think that's the way they would approach it, or it's the way that they should approach it. I think you approach it with the understanding that, hey, look, man, this is it, right? We brought you in. We believed in you. We trusted in you. We invested this time to visit you and all the things that we did. We believe that you will get right. And we have the support system in place to get you right. That's the way I would look at it if I were the Titans. So for me, no, I don't agree with that, the probationary or anything like that, because I think when you go a probationary type of approach, you're doing it with the understanding that he will mess up again. So, no, I'm not for that at all.
Talking with TD, Teron Davenport. Tyler Boyd was in Nashville this past week. I wanted to circle back with that quickly, TD. You said the numbers have to be right. And, of course, I wholeheartedly agree. Any of these deals, any conversations you have, any visits you have, the numbers have to be right. In your opinion, what would be the right deal? Contract-wise, money, years, what would be the right deal for Tyler Boyd?
Well, when I was saying the number has to be right, I was saying for them to make a move right now. And if they were to make a move right now before, because it was under the context of the question that Derek had asked in regards to them waiting or moving now. So for me, I think that number will be in the 2-year, $14 million range, somewhere around there. Even that, I think, is a little husky for that. But that's the range that I think it would be in order for them to strike now. And it would have to be something that they have either a team option or some way to get out of after this, this year right now. If they could get out of that, with the understanding that, hey, maybe Burks will come around, boom, then you have it. That's the way I would look at it. Yeah,
TD, I think that's 2 for 14, maybe a little bit too hefty because you don't know if he's going to be your 3 or your 4. And you definitely, if Traylon does solidify himself as that 3, you don't want to be paying your 4 $7 million per year, or say, just for this 1 year, $8 million, because you probably give him 4 to sign and another 4 to play. You don't want to give that much to your 4th receiver. Now, if he becomes your 3rd, okay, you can justify it, but your 4th, I don't think you can justify that. Quickly, Stonehouse, what is the status on him?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be available. He's not going to be available for a bit into camp, if that. Yeah.
Okay, because
there hasn't been anything said.
Because there hadn't been anything said about Stonehouse, and we understand that he was he was one of the important players for the Titans. He was a playmaker for him in the kicking game. So just the status on him coming into this season.
Yeah, I think it's still questionable as far as when he's going to be back. That was a pretty severe injury that he got late November. Yeah. So I would imagine maybe into the season, but I haven't heard anything about him being ready now for sure.
Okay.
Teron, I think all of us, I always try to cross-check my evaluation of the roster because I think like everybody here, you want to believe that they are going to be competitive next year. But everything I see around the league still continues to be skeptical, I think would be the way to put at it, that I think the consensus 4th-place team in the predictions will be the Titans. Do you agree with that? Or I mean, because I can see why. Like, I'm trying to be realistic, and I try to take my my prism out of it and say, okay, why is this realistic? Are they completely missing it? I can see where the Titans would be picked 4th. But where do you think they view themselves, and how do you view them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's realistic. I think it's more between the Colts and the Titans for the bottom of the division. But, divisional games are always close. And this is a team that I think is going to be competitive, so they could sneak out a couple wins. But right now, in my opinion, probably third, competing for second in the division. That's probably where I would have them.
And I think that's fair. And, of course, it's easy to make those predictions in May, and then those predictions always change. I'm sure the Texans were projected to projected to finish fourth in the division this past year, obviously. We saw what happened with Houston. But with that being said, I was looking at some way too early 2025 mock drafts. And I get it. I know doing mock drafts in May is absolutely ridiculous.
Hold on, Caroline. Wait a minute. Mock drafts for 2025?
Less about the players being selected and more about where some of these draft gurus. Yes, exactly. It was more about just. I think it said more to me about how good or bad do you think certain teams are going to be in this upcoming season.
I thought you were at a wedding this past weekend. I thought you had a full plate. What were you doing?
I was doing this last week, Willie.
Please
I was off this weekend.
Okay, so it wasn't the DJ at the wedding
we
or
work
anything?
hard, we work hard, we play hard.
Okay, I got
But
it.
I was looking at what Dane Brugler's recent mock draft. And I know, the mock draft, ignore the player, but more so the projected finish. Had the Titans picking second in this upcoming draft. I think that it also had the Titans selecting a quarterback, Carson Beck out of Georgia with the second overall pick. That sounds to me, TD, like a clear indictment of Will Levis. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's fair, but you also have to look at, I don't know what the Athletic does, but I know a lot of outlets, what they do is use like a football power index or some type of computer projection to get to that status. And so if they were to use that, I mean, I would imagine if the Titans finished as the second worst team in the league, a lot of that would be because of the quarterback. And so it would make sense for them to get a new one. But, yeah, I mean, pretty much like all of the stuff that you see now, Jaden Daniels wasn't even a first-round pick at this time last year. So, and a while ago, Joe Burrow wasn't even a first-round pick, before he ended up being the number one. So a lot of the mock drafts and things like that, they're kind of equivalent to toilet tissue to me right now.
Transfer quarterback you, I will say, about those two quarterbacks. TD, we've got rookie minicamp going down this weekend. What are some things that you are looking for, and what do you think some things Titans fans should keep an eye on?
Yeah, I mean, as far as for rookie minicamp, there's a lot to look forward to. I think, you need to look to see how these guys come in and how comfortable they are moving around. We'll have videos and stuff like that, and the interaction between the coaches and the players. That's really the main thing that I think should be something that everybody's looking forward to.
TD, appreciate you as always. Thanks for your time this Monday. Before we let you go, tell us about ESPN Bet.
Yeah, for sure. ESPN Bet has fans covered for the biggest moments on the road to the championship. It's the exclusive sportsbook of ESPN and the only place to find special offers and promotions from your favorite ESPN shows and personalities. And that's during the playoffs and also baseball, everything that's going on right now. As a new user, you could get a $1,000 bet reset up to that in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. So download ESPN Bet today. What a play. For problem gambling and support, call or text the TN Red Line at 800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. See the app for details.
TD, you're the best. We'll catch up next week. Thanks for your time.
All right, thanks. See you later.
Teron Davenport brought to you by ESPN Bet Sportsbook. Always appreciate TD for stopping by. Willie, I don't think we've gotten to get your opinion. The Titans hosting Tyler Boyd for a visit. Your thoughts?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it last week. My biggest concern is if you're paying a significant amount of money and it blocks Treylon Burks, I think it says a lot about what they believe Treylon Burks is at this point. And I go back to something that I think is a central question for the Titans, and that is, in my mind, I think a smart move would be to let the kids play a little bit more. Like we talk about it with the Predators a lot. They leaned against, after about a half the season, just letting the kids stay out there, right? They went a different direction, and it benefited them, right? They went with Kiefer Sherwood and Mark Jankowski and Michael McCarron, and it wasn't a youth movement, and that worked for them, right? I think a little easier to play that game in hockey because you can send them to the minors, and there's still a benefit for a lot of those young guys to say, well, they still could do some growing in Milwaukee. You can't do that if you're the Titans.
Yeah.
It's either Traylon Burks plays a lot or you're moving on from Traylon Burks. If he's not playing, he's sitting, right? You can't send him to AAA and say, let him be the main man for the next 2 or 3 weeks and see if he catches 8 or 9 passes and gets his confidence back up. Then we'll bring him back up.
Yeah.
That's just not an option you have. So you are potentially blocking him. So Boyd would have to be a difference maker, and that's fine. But I do think in the next 2 or 3 years, as you're trying to build towards a new stadium and build a younger roster, then you got to try to leave some room for younger players to develop. And then hopefully re-sign, because it's in the NFL, it is time-tested. You can't just buy free agents 20, 29, 30 years old every year and expect to be really good, right? You might overachieve and be okay, but eventually you got to have that foundation where you draft and develop top-level talent. That's my concern.
My thing is with Traylon, you don't have to do anything with him, honestly, because you got him this year, you got him next year, and then more than likely, based upon next year or this year, you can pick up the fifth-year option, on him. More than likely, I don't see them picking up a fifth-year option.
The fifth-year option gets complicated because it becomes expensive, right?
Absolutely. So
if he's not doing anything.
You can if it's still sort of, you're still trying to weigh it after you bring in Tyler Boyd and you see those two guys, it's not a big difference with Tyler Boyd nor without him. You bring him in, he's a part of the depth piece. Yes, he's going to get some playing time, but you still don't have to move away from Traylon because it's not like you got to, his contract is coming up. No,
it's not one or the other.
Exactly.
No, he's not killing your cap.
That's what I'm saying. So you don't have to.
But can he develop, though?
That's going to be the issue.
Is there opportunity? Like if they didn't have Ridley, if they didn't spend the money on Ridley, then I think I would be all in on grabbing Boyd to go with Hopkins, give you another veteran, and then still have that room for Traylon Burks to be in there. But having both Ridley, Boyd, and Hopkins, 3 veterans, you got a lot invested there. So, man, you better get some return on that investment, right? And then it doesn't leave much room for anybody else to get in there.
It doesn't. But my thing is, too, because this the guys that you're bringing in, they've dealt with some type of injury or suspension or whatnot, but they're getting older. Calvin Ridley, D-Hop, and if you bring in a Tyler Boyd, they all are getting older. What you can't do is not have some youth on that team, because one of those guys go down, you've become a very old team very quickly at that position. Very quickly. So the speed you've lost it immediately if one of those, especially if Calvin Ridley goes down for any amount of time, you lose that. So don't be so quick to move on from Traylon Burks. You don't have to. Allow this young man to continue to develop. I understand his first 2 years, they hadn't been, what we expected. But I still believe he has something to show you. Allow him to show whatever it is he has left in him to help you make that decision on, should we keep him for the future or not?
Yeah.
Because just giving up on him right now because it's time to sign Tyler Boyd, that doesn't make your team better whatsoever.
I don't think that they would give up on him. Like, you're not going to trade. You could trade him.
You could trade him.
But I don't view going after Tyler Boyd as scrapping Traylon Burks and moving on, because I don't view Tyler Boyd as your long-term answer.
But I think some people are thinking of it that way. Like, they bring in Tyler Boyd, then automatically Traylon is gone. That's not the case.
I think it's a reflection of Traylon, in that it might be an indication that they just have to find insurance, that they need a third guy. That it can't just be Ridley and Hopkins.
Exactly.
And I know you have Nick Westbrook-Akine, but I'll use Paul Kuharski's line. Nick Westbrook-Akine has explosive. He did explosiveness. So they need a third guy, a certified third guy that they trust and they feel comfortable with. And Brian Callahan knows Tyler Boyd. It's a sense of familiarity. They want their best 11 out there. If that's Traylon Burks, put him out there.
Yeah.
If that's Tyler Boyd, put him out there.
But if you're going to pay significant, if you get Boyd at a bargain, I get it. But if Boyd is making a significant money,
but I don't think you would have to pay him significant money.
Don't you think that's something that would be coming up? Like, why aren't Why aren't you playing Boyd? You just went out and got him, and you're paying him. Why aren't you playing him?
But I don't like. Let's say TD said 2 years, $14 million. If you're paying him $7 million a year, or up to $7 million a year, that's not breaking the bank. Like that would not
for
be
a fourth
such.
receiver. It is.
That wouldn't be so much of an investment that I would say I have to
for your
play
fourth
him.
receiver or your third receiver. Yeah, it is. That's a lot of money.
$7 million
for your
compared to what
for a
receivers
guy
are making.
For a guy that may not be playing any special teams. And he may not be active. You got to understand, when you're that fourth guy, you may not be active.
That's assuming
if you
he would be the fourth guy. If he's the fourth guy, that means Traylon's playing well and he's available. And I'll take that. To me, it's $7 million insurance.
But remember, you need cap space during the season, too. Like when guys get hurt, like I see what D-Mase is saying there. I'd be a little concerned.
He wouldn't eat up a significant amount of the cap.
I think at that position, like you said, where you're not getting any special teams or anything, it's a little.
Unless you're going to force him to be a gunner.
He's got to play.
Yeah, he would. If you bring him in, he would have to
play.
He's playing because you're not bringing him in. What we got? Okay, we're just throwing out this arbitrary.
But we also said that about a
first-round
pick. He's going to have to play. He hasn't.
Well, he has played, but he hasn't been.
He hasn't been available.
But he has to play.
He hasn't been available.
He hasn't played, and what has that done to the Titans' offense? It has hurt it.
Yes.
It's hurt the offense because he hasn't been in the offense consistent enough. It's hurt them because that's a loss of a first-round pick.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So he has to. You got to get him in there. The same for Tyler Boyd. If you bring him in and you want to pay him $7 per year, he has to play. You can't because that will go under. People will use that against Rand again. Like, oh, you signed this guy $7 million and he's just a waste on the bench because he can't play.
But if Traylon Burks is playing well, I'm not going to worry about who's on the bench. I'm gonna be talking about how well the offense looks because Traylon Burks can be part of it.
Oh, you're going to worry about it when you have to sign other guys and you don't have that money. You're strapped. You're right up against the salary cap to sign other guys. That's when you're going to think about it like, damn, we signed this guy and he ain't even playing.
I wish we had that $7 million to go sign.
I wish we would have signed him for $3 million or $2 million because we would have been able to stomach it a little bit better. But I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not saying that's going to happen.
Because you could look at it like, dang, wish we had a fourth option at inside linebacker over a third receiver. See, I can't get on board with that because absolutely you need depth and you need to sign a safety. And like TD's just mentioned, they're probably going to go out and sign another edge rusher.
Yeah.
And you're not going to – if Tyler Boyd is going to inhibit you from being able to build up the defense in positions that you absolutely need starters at, then you're not going to make that signing. If the money makes sense, I think that the Titans should do it because I can't hold my breath and expect Traylon Burks to be healthy and available because he hasn't been. And if he is, and he's healthy, and he's productive and available, then great. That's the cherry on top. Let's get right into your Titans, Tyler Boyd, Predators. Predators fall in Game 6, 1-0 to the Vancouver Canucks. What comes next? 789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
Hey everyone, this is D-Mase, Derek Mason, and you heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff at Cool Springs MD for some time. I've shared how they help with imbalanced hormones and how they offer a comprehensive weight loss program that addresses the root cause of weight gain. But now I want to tell you about a new laser they call the Empower Laser. With this laser, Dr. Lodge and Cool Springs MD can help you turn back the clock and take control of your body. And I'm telling you about this laser because I have used it and will continue to use it. Learn about the amazing new laser and how it stimulates your Kegels in 20 minutes, women. The only laser indicated for mixed urinary stress, incontinence, and hear about the tone feature. This is what I use it for, the tone feature. The muscle stimulator that increases muscle production and toning in your stomach, thighs, love handles, arms, and more. You could be a new person for the summer, people. Dr. Lodge and his team are ready to help you turn back the clock and take control of your body with the new Empowered Laser at Cool Springs MD. Take control of your body like I've taken control of mine. Visit their website, make an appointment at CoolSpringsMD.com today.
Line. Willy, D-Mase. We are broadcasting from Restore in Gallatin at 327 Sumner Hall Drive. We have so many volunteers from the Predators, the Titans, Pella Windows and Doors, and all over that are building playgrounds for families in Sumner County. Habitat for Humanity has partnered with sponsors to provide children with a safe place to play and imagine what a safe home means to them. So appreciate all the volunteers out here and appreciate Pella Windows and Doors for inviting us here, because it is an absolute blast and an honor to be here with Habitat for Humanity of Sumner County in Tennessee. We've got a bunch of thoughts on our text line. We got Titans, we got Tyler Boyd, we got Preds. Unless you got a thought, let's get right into the phones. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to get in on the conversation. David in Arkansas texts in and says, fans shouldn't give up on Burks. I believe he can thrive in this new look offense, or at least with the new coaching staff. A different voice can be good for someone. Burks was special in college. There is no doubt that he can do it for the Titans. He just needs to protect himself if at all possible. I can't say that there is no doubt that he can do it for the Titans. I cannot say that definitively, because we've had a 2-year sample size where Treylon Burks wasn't able to stay healthy. Is he talented? Heck yeah, he's talented. It's the reason why he was a first-round pick. I mean, absolutely. We saw it in college. We see the size. We know the speed. We saw it at training camp last year before he got hurt. I was so encouraged about what Treylon Burks could do. So it's not a question of talent. It's just a question of, can you stay healthy? Your best ability is your availability.
Availability is huge. But and I would like to see. That's why I'm leaning towards not paying the money for Boyd and leaving a little space to say, okay, I now have a head coach who's the offensive mind. That's supposedly one of the reasons why you wanted him, right? Hopefully he's got that leadership gene as well. Everything looks good so far. But now an offensive mind who might have a better way of bringing out the best in Burks. And it does hinge on him just being out there.
Yeah.
But I still think if he can be out there, there could be something there. And that would be a lot less expensive than paying Boyd.
Yeah, I mean, but I understand both sides of it.
With more of a long-term benefit, too, because you hopefully
Tyler
would
Boyd's
have
not going to be your receiver for the next 5 to 7 years.
Especially considering the other two guys are older guys, too.
Yeah. Tyler Boyd is only, if you were to bring him in, he's a year guy. He's a guy you bring in just for this year. Mm-hmm. More than likely it'll be a 2-year deal, but really a 1-year deal. They can get out of it without any consequences to the salary cap, really. We talk so much about Treylon Burks and, what this may do to him or for him or against him, I don't know. But we got to look at it from Tyler Boyd's situation, too. It's not just a far-gone conclusion just because Brian Callahan was the OC in Cincinnati. They have a history together that, oh, my goodness, yeah, he'd be a perfect fit here. No, he has to, because does he want to play for 1 year or does he want to play for multiple years? You get into a situation like this not knowing if you're the 4th or the 3rd receiver. If I'm signing to a team, I'm a veteran guy, I got to know I'm coming into a situation where I'm playing. Mm-hmm. I'm not coming in injured. I'm not coming in, I'm having a horrible season. I'm coming in having a good season for a 3rd receiver. I got to know coming in I'm the 3rd receiver, because after this, your contracts are going to start dwindling very quickly. If you come here and all of a sudden now you are outplayed and become the 4th, mm-hmm. You may not sign another contract after that, because you're not going to get the playing time that you need to show other teams you can still, contribute and contribute at a high level. So if I'm Tyler Boyd, I'm like, listen, is this situation advantageous for me in my career? Because it's not like I'm coming to the Titans and I'm winning and they're ready-made for a Super Bowl right now. Mm-hmm. They're ready-made for a Super Bowl right now. I don't care if I'm the 3rd, 4th, or 5th wide receiver. I want to be a part of this, this run, because I'm getting older. And I don't have time to be sitting around waiting on a young team to develop. He's coming into a team that isn't ready or primed for that, at least right now. If you don't come in, if you don't solidify yourself as that 3rd guy right away, you're going to be in trouble the next following season trying to get another contract somewhere else. So we got to look at it. Exactly. We got to look at it from Tyler Boyd's situation, too.
Totally.
He got to want to come here once he sort of looked at everything. I went out to L.A., is L.A. a little bit more advantageous for me in my career moving forward, or the Titans or somebody else? Mm-hmm. So it's not all predicated on the Titans wanting to sign him. It's him wanting to sign here.
If the Titans give the best offer that they can give and it's still not good enough for Tyler Boyd, then that's up to him.
Yeah.
That's free agency. If he doesn't view that this is the best, most advantageous move for his career, then he's not going to make it, and there's nothing that the Titans can do about that. The Titans have their offer. Their price is their price. Money talks. We know that money can get players to go, maybe not the most advantageous place because it's the best offer that they have. So the Titans have their offer. If they have a dollar amount in mind and it fits and it aligns with what Tyler Boyd wants, then great. If there's a better offer somewhere else that the Titans just aren't willing to give, I can live with that.
Well, it's not even necessarily, I think, it's not, as you start to get older, at least from my standpoint, as you start to get older as a veteran guy, it's not necessarily about the money because, listen, whether you're making the top dollar or not. When you get in a season, it's about me playing. I could be making $8 million on the bench, and I'm going to be upset, very upset. We've seen it. I don't care how much money you're making. If you're not playing and contributing, you get upset, especially if you feel you're doing what's necessary to contribute. So you're going
to get the noise from the fans going, what's so-and-so? He's making $7 million. He's not even on the field.
Absolutely. So I understand the money part, but for older guys, it's like I got to be involved in a team. I got to be involved in the offense. I got to be playing. Yeah, y'all paying me this money, but if I'm not playing, I'm just an unhappy person with money. Now I'm coming to practice every day. I don't feel that sense of being a part because I'm not. Yeah, y'all paying me a lot of money, but I'm not a part of what's going on. And then y'all going to be looking to either trade me before the trade deadline, or I'm not going to be a part of this team next year. These are all the things that that people are not thinking about. They're thinking it's just a one-way street. It's not a one-way street. It's Tyler Boyd wanting to come here knowing, if I do come here, these are the things that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Or the Titans, not wanting them or wanting them. So it's a two-way street here.
Totally, yeah. Welcome to free agency.
Exactly.
It's not always in your control. Andrew's on the line with a thought on the Predators. What's up, Andrew?
Hey, guys. Just kind of piggybacking off of the conversation probably about, I guess, before you guys had went to Tehran. So I feel like the Preds have a history of having a plethora of talent at, one position. I want to say, during the tough run, it sort of felt like it was defensemen. And then now we kind of find ourselves in the situation with our goalies. And this kind of leaves me with two questions. One of them is the need for second line scoring. I think we can all agree that something outside of the first line, we need some more scoring. And so what I'm asking is, would a trade of Saros or Askarov give you that in return?
I think that's a central question that Barry Trotz has to try to weigh with every other option of trying to, because it's hard to get the number one center, right? In a perfect world, you find a number one center that bumps Ryan O'Reilly down to the number two center. Colton Sisson / Tommy Novak, 3, 4. Then the lineup really looks like the type of lineup that could really come at you with a lot of layers. I think they, in fairness, even though I can sit there and say this is the highest scoring Predator team of all time, tied for the most goals in 82 games, they sort of overachieved to get to that, I think. And that is Andrew Burnett, that is Gus Nyquist, that is Ryan O'Reilly. But I think going forward, you look at were some guys playing a little bit above punching a little bit above their weight. I think the answer is yes. And a number one center would set everybody back. It's like a bad bullpen in baseball. You're like, oh, this is a bad bullpen. But if you had the awesome closer, and all of a sudden the guy that was closing that's not that great is now your setup man, and your setup man is now your setup B, now all of a sudden the bullpen looks really good. So the problem is it's really hard to get that number one center. They don't grow on trees. So the other way you go about it is how do you compensate for that? And they did a great job of that this year. But I think that's a little easier to do than to say how do we get the number one center. But I do think his question is one that Barry Trotz is weighing is, can I get the number one? The answer is obviously no, not yet. Because I think if somebody had offered him a number one center for either Askarov or Saros, he might have taken it. But it's got to be certainty, right? Especially for Saros. Askarov, it could be I think this guy could be a number one center, for a guy that could be a number one goalie. That might be the way to go, because it's going to be hard for somebody to say, I'm trading you my established number one center, because those guys are so hard to find.
Especially at the trade deadline.
Right.
If you're making a push for the playoffs, you're not trading your number one center.
But who
Maybe
is the
that's
last
a
real
conversation.
number one center to get traded as an established number one center? That's not.
You
That
don't
doesn't
trade
happen.
them.
It doesn't happen.
Because they're so hard to come by.
Right.
So why trade them away for a piece for a goaltender that has been over the last couple of years? Results would show that you don't necessarily need that elite goaltender if you have that elite number one center.
Okay, Willie, is there anyone else? Because we're just looking at, we're talking about a Skarloff, and obviously UC, we've been talking about UC the whole season, whether they should sign him back, trade him, whatnot. Is there anyone else on this team that is trade bait? Or is it just, UC Saros and that's it, because he will bring, because the one guy that I'm looking at, and I know that it would probably be a no, but they went down this route before. And the GM was the head coach then. Do they make a move? He ain't getting no older and younger. Roman Josi, eventually. Yep. Because he's 34 now. He's not a free agent until 2028, I believe, which makes him 38 years old, at least 37. Yep. I know that's not something anyone wants to breach. I didn't want to, but I'm just looking at it because we're talking about just one guy in regards to trading. Yeah. How much can we get for UC? How much can we get for a Skarloff, because he's a young guy that seems like he has a lot of potential? But that's why I asked the question, is there anyone else on this be trade bait? I'm not asking that he be traded, but I'm just saying.
Okay, so let's take Josi. First of all, so he turns 34 in June, so next year will be his age 34 season. He's the captain. He just had a Norris Trophy level season, so he's not deteriorating at all. He's got a no trade clause, so that's the first thing you'd have to go through. And I think, you better tread lightly before you approach him and say, Roman, you willing to be traded?
Because once you have that conversation, that's opening up an entirely different can of worms.
But my thing is, he's not getting any younger.
But he has to decide that he wants
I understand that
part.
I understand that part.
I understand the thought process. But
so the guys that you would have that conversation about are probably guys that you would have that issue with. And that Forsberg would be another guy. He's also got a no trade. You just invested in him. I still think you're trying to add to what those guys bring for the next couple of years. So I would doubt seriously. But it's a great question to ask, because Barry Trotz is looking around saying, how do I get this roster overall to the next level? So even if the number one center isn't available, then how do you compensate? Can you find 3 number twos, right, and just have a little bit more by committee, which I think they had a lot of success with this year. Like with Zucker and Beauvillier, that gave them a little more veteran presence that helped them, I think, in that playoff series. But I don't know if either one of those guys are going to be back. So what does Cody Glass look like next year? What about guys like Kemmel and Svechkov and LaRue who are playing in Milwaukee? Will they be ready to help next year? Parson and Tomasino. These are all areas that you're getting all the information you can from the scouts. But at the end of the day, I think for them to really be in the conversation with the Colorados and the Dallases and the teams that you got to beat, is they've got to find a way to upgrade what they've got right
and
now.
Listen, I'm not advocating for Roman to be traded, but these are the things, because listen, Barry didn't sign him to this contract. So Barry could be like, listen, we love you, but we are thinking from a organizational standpoint. And this is one of those options. We may not even ever say anything to Roman Josi, but these are the things that we think about behind the scenes. Like, how do we get our team from here to there as quickly as possible?
It certainly helps if you've got young players that infuse your roster with talent because they don't cost that much. That, to me, is going to be a big question is, look, the Athletic is one source, but they do a lot of research on it. But I think regardless of the publication, Nashville has got a very deep group of prospects. Is there an elite guy in there? That is probably the number one question. But there's a lot of really good players in there. If one or two of them turned into very good players over the next couple of years, that would certainly help with the firepower, that finisher that I think this team on paper lacks a little bit to be considered an elite team. They're a very good team.
Yeah.
It's like the old saying with Vrabel, how do we go from good to great?
Yeah.
I think that's what Barry Trotz is looking at right now. How do we get from good to really good?
And there are pieces that you feel encouraged about
Yeah.
after this playoff series. Evangelista.
Oh, I like where he's
How
going.
could you not be fired up about what Luke Evangelista could become over the next couple of seasons? Yuso Parsonen. I think you can be encouraged by what you saw from Yuso Parsonen.
Despite
in
kind of a
Game 6.
disappointing year. I'm sure he was crushed to get sent down, right? But I think he made the most of it, came back and showed in that playoff game that he's not a guy to write off. So where does he ideally fit? These are all questions. I thought Parsonen, for this team to make the playoffs, I would have said, well, Parsonen's he's gonna pop. He's gonna go wild. He didn't.
Yeah.
Tomasino didn't pop. They still made the playoffs. Like UC Saros didn't have a top 10 goalie kind of year. They still made the playoffs. Like these are all things I would have said had to go right for them to make the playoffs. So there was so many positives despite all of that happening. But I still think this young nucleus is a big part of the answer to these questions.
Back into your phones coming up next. Plus, I do want to address one text that I keep seeing over and over and over again in the text line. And frankly, I disagree with it vehemently. And we'll address it coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
All right, let's talk F&M Bank. Every Friday, 1:45, and we take it to the bank. And we are in a new season. I'm battling. Caroline, the defending champion, already has a lead on us. Derek and I are not happy about that at all, but we're trying to change that quickly. Also, F&M Bank, you've heard me talking about these guys a lot lately, and I'm really excited to tell you about some of the things they've got going. I want you to get in touch with F&M Bank's friendly team today. Just find the nearest location to you. There's 20 of them at myfmbank.com. Discover how they can empower you and your financial goals. Visit them online or one of their locations in Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky to get started. Unlock your financial potential. They want to do this for you by making it easy on you. Banking made easy on purpose. They're your key to financial freedom, where dreams begin, prosperity grows. Don't wait. Visit online, myfmbank.com. Find that nearest location. Tell them we sent you, because there's one located near to you most likely. Visit myfmbank.com. Take it to the bank, myfmbank.com. F&M Bank, equal housing lender, member FDIC.
line, Willy, D-Mase. We appreciate Restore Habitat for Humanity of Sumner County for having us out today. They're building playhouses today for families in Sumner County. Really, really happy to be here, and they've done an amazing job putting up these playhouses. Honestly, they look nicer than my actual house itself. I need to move into one of these playhouses. But, Willy, we're discussing the Predators. We're right back into your phones. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. But one overwhelming sentiment that I feel like we've been getting in the text line all show long is same old Predators, get into the playoffs, and then they get bounced in the first round. I don't agree with that. This doesn't feel like the same old Predators. I know it's a similar result, and I know it's the result that make a lot of fans frustrated that you keep knocking on the door, but you just can't quite get in. This does not feel like the same old Predators to me. There's a lot more optimism coming out at the end of the season than I feel like maybe years past.
I feel really excited about where it's going because of what we talked about. They have a lot of draft capital that they've built up. Mm-hmm. They have some prospects that are in different areas of development, but they have already started that process. They're on the verge of helping the team. I think that's a really good place to be, and they're not over the cap. I would be concerned if they had lost in the first round, mortgaging the future, and it still wasn't good enough to win in the first round. Just try to keep perspective. Vegas just went all in, as they do every year, and lost in the first round. And now they've got a mess. They're going to have to give away some players, just like they've been doing. It was worth it last year. Yeah. Sounds great. Mm-hmm. 2 years ago, they missed the playoffs doing that. This year, they lost in the first round. So you could be the Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs have won one playoff round. They tanked for years, got high first-round picks. So my point is everybody's got problems. Yeah. The L.A. Kings are another one that I think are interesting to look at. They've lost to the same team 3 years in a row now in the first round. It's Groundhog Day. Are they getting better? Mm-hmm. They've lost by a wider margin in each of those series. Or is it just because the Oilers are getting better? Who are their goalies? Remember, the Kings tanked for 5 years. 5. Oof. Between the last, remember, they won 2 cups. Mm-hmm. They had to bust it all the way down. They've built it back up. They should be winning now, and they are getting to the playoffs. They haven't won a playoff round. It is hard to win in the playoffs, no matter what you do. So try to keep that perspective, and don't act like it's easy to win in the playoffs. It is not. So the moves they make in this offseason, I think the best way I would describe it is they have options on how to get the team to the next level. They're not exasperated and at the end of the line. That's why I'm optimistic about it.
It feels much different than 2022. We are asking ourselves, now what? Now where do you go from here? Obviously, there are a lot of questions of where do you go from here following this season, but it's couched with a lot more optimism, in my opinion. Shout out to Restore for Habitat for Humanity of Sumner County. We will be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Stillman & Company's up next.
Be love and loving your people. Happy Monday and peace.